We capped off last week's episode by discussing some of the greatest players that have ever touched Rainbow Six Siege. And while we didn't really focus on him in our last episode, there's one player who always seems to be on the bubble of the GOAT discussion. That player plays on a great team in Europe. And this SI, well, the hammer is going to be on his home soil. He's yet to win one. The question that we have been asking, and people have been asking, is Shaiko really the greatest of all time if he's never won the Six Invitational? Now, obviously, the Falcons are a great team, but they've come so close so many times, falling in various grand finals. They've won a major, they've won EWC, but it's the ultimate goal of everybody who touches this game to win the Six Invitational. And there's added stress when it's in your own country. So the question that we need to ask, and the question that we're going to ask you as well, that hopefully we will have some answers for, can you consider somebody, whether it be Shaiko or somebody else, the greatest of all time, if they have not won the hammer? That will be our first topic on our pre-SI show. As you see on your screen, we've got a guest with us. He streams an awful lot with Mint. If you watch the NA League, you probably know Dream. One of the nicest guys in the scene. He'll be providing information and wisdom on all of the various teams that are competing, because once we're done with our Shaiiko GOAT status discussion, we're going to turn our sights to all four of the groups at SI and break down who's playing, how do we think they're going to do, and will there be any surprises? And we will wrap the episode by showing our personal predictions and maybe dive into some interesting information that's come to light about both Cloud9, Dreams org, and WYLDE, another EU org. Welcome to Down But Not Out. Let's get started. Gentlemen, Shaiko, is he the GOAT if he does not win the Six Invitational? And furthermore, can you consider anybody the GOAT if they've never won SI?
I actually saw a Reddit thread on this, and this Reddit thread was so hotly contested. It has 32 comments on it on the R6 Pro League subreddit and 0 upvote score, because it's just dead even, right? I think that's the perfect topic to talk about surrounding this SI. That is the storyline, right? This is Shaiko's hometown SI after a string of nothing but second place finishes in those Ubisoft S tiers, from Manchester, Montreal, SI25, Munich, all second places. He's got a bunch of EWCs, right? But SI is the tournament in Siege. It is the distinguishing trophy that before the Brazilians flooded in and started calling majors Campeonato del Mundo, you could only call yourself a world champion if you had won the Six Invitational. You get a fucking hammer.
You still can't, for the record. I'm going to interrupt you just for 1 second here. I will accept I will accept nothing but SI being a world championship. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what region you're from. I don't care how good your teams are. If you have not won SI, you are not a world champion. Let's just put this to rest. This isn't even my opinion. This is literally Ubisoft, Blast, ESL, and face it, every TO we've ever had has said the only world championship is SI. If you say, oh, I won a major, oh, I won OGA Pit, oh, I won EWC, I'm a world champion. You are not. Let's move on.
Yeah, and I think already there we can see the difference in perspectives between what Parker said and what a lot of the the comments in this Reddit thread of current esports viewers think, right? So I think David just cycled through them. I think there's a lot of people saying that a lot of people make the simple comparison in CS:GO, right? A lot of people thought he was in contention to be the GOAT long before his major win in whatever the hell in 2021. Some people are comparing it to, oh, that's like saying Ronaldo can't be the GOAT because he never won the World Cup. People think it's a dog shit opinion because he's gotten first in multiple S tiers like EWC 2024, Gamers 8 2023, Gamers 8 2022, and the Jönköping major.
Which he won. He won the Jönköping major.
Yes, he won.
He beat Liquid.
Yeah, he beat Liquid. And for me, I want to preface this before I say anything. For me, he's in the GOAT conversation because of his impact on the game and how large his gap is in skill and individual performance against the rest of the competition over the course of his entire career. But he is very far from being the GOAT. For me, I say my opinion is he cannot, absolutely cannot be the GOAT He's in the conversation, but he cannot be the GOAT because he's never won a SI. And I'll break that down more later, but I think me giving the background on the Reddit post kind of took a bit of time, so I'm going to toss it to
hold on. I want a definitive answer from you.
Me too.
Do you think, answer these two questions. Number one, do you think Shaiko is the GOAT?
No.
Do you think you can be the GOAT without an SI championship?
No, I said that. Did I say that?
And I'm just making it perfectly clear for people who are distracted. That's all. So Fett is on record. Shaiko's not the GOAT. You can't be the GOAT without it. Now that Fett has passed the baton, Mr. Mustache, would you like to take the lead, or are we going to give it to our friendly guest here?
Let's let Dream go first if he.
Yeah, I don't think you could be the GOAT without an SI win. 100%. I mean, that's the most prestigious event the entire year. He could be in the conversation, you know, because he has so many MVPs and like finished second at a bunch of tournaments and obviously won EWC, I think 3 times. He's definitely like a top 10 player, 100%, no doubt in my mind. But can he be that definitive #1 best Siege player to ever touch the game? Absolutely not. You need a hammer. Simple as that.
Yeah, and I don't want to kind of echo the statements of everyone here. I think we've all, you know, been in pro league and we're all competitors here, so I feel like we're all saying the same things, or we're all thinking about it the same. But I guess what I want to ask you guys is, in a separate debate, but that goes toward it, is like, how many majors equal an SI in your guys' eyes? Let's say, and he's only won one, right? He's only won Jokaping, but let's say he never finishes that SI and he goes on to win multiple, like, I don't even know what's the most amount of majors someone's won, but let's say he won 6 of them. Like, does that, like, if he's won a ridiculous number of majors, does that put him even further in that conversation? Or is it just like, no SI, you can't win the big one, you can't win the World Cup, the Super Bowl, it's a no-go for me?
You know what? You were very vocal in that exact Reddit thread you referenced. We'll have the Reddit thread linked in the comments just so people can or in the description so you can go through yourself. But why don't you take the lead on this then?
That's a point I wanted to bring up later, like the number, right? Like the conversion number. Now I'll answer you right now, so I'm not just rude and fucking not answering you, man. But I think it's can you imagine? It's like, what do you think it is? Nah, fuck you, man. I'll talk about it later. Anyway, but no. So I think it's majors is different in the context of Siege, because I think. Here's the thing with Shaiko's achievements, right? And I'll explain this later, and I need to get to that point. There's a lot of thoughts I have on this. Shaiko, EWC wise, I think he can win an infinite amount of EWCs as long as they don't change that format, and it will never, ever, ever amount to 1 SI. I think he can win 20 EWCs, and it will never win be an SI. Now, like you said, if he won like 6 majors, okay, does that put him over someone who's won 2 SIs? Actually, I don't think so. But if he won like 10 majors, I think that at that point it's like, okay, this guy's insane. But that's the thing, I think, is the first topic we need to think about when we think about this is event equivalence. Right? Because people love to make comparisons to basketball, to soccer, to CS, and they make these claims like Ronaldo can't be considered the GOAT because he's never won the World Cup. And that's just not a 1-to-1, right? SI is the Champions League if we're talking football. It's an NBA championship if we're talking basketball. It's League of Legends Worlds. It's EVO in a fighting game. That's what SI is. Can an NBA player be considered the GOAT without an NBA championship? I think a lot of people would say no. Now, the number, right, that's where it gets a little different, but just 1? No, right? And I think a lot of people in the thread, like, they had rebuttals to when I said that. They said that, okay, you know, why are you underrating majors so much? Like, if we're talking about actual difficulty, then winning the Yanchiping Major is more impressive and difficult than winning SI 2017, SI 2018, and SI 2019. And to that I say, you could, if you're going to compare eras, like, winning NAL is harder than winning SI 2017, right? If we're talking about format wise, right? Like that, SI 2017 was a 16 bracket, and that was it. Okay, so I think it's only fair to compare events within that particular year, right? And I think within that particular year, SI 23 was infinitely more teams, double elim bracket, 5-team groups, and a 16-team double elim bracket versus 4-team groups and an 8-team single elim bracket, right? Now, the next point is a person who basically counted the amount of S tiers he had. And I think this is the most major thing that I want to touch on right now is just S tier events within games. You have to understand it context dependent. They depend entirely on the game that you play it in terms of their importance. That is why Parker said earlier, from his point of view, hard line, you are not a world championship if you win a major or an EWC, because that is the culture of esports that was set inside of Siege. So a major in CS is nowhere near comparable to a SI in Siege in the context specific of its game. The only comparable ones you could say are Evo and fighting games and Worlds in League of Legends. So let me give you an example. Every single League of Legends esports year, there's a world championship that happens at the end of the year. Between that, in the middle of the year, there's a mid-season invitational that's also an international championship. Chovy is a player who was touted to be better than Faker in League of Legends. If you don't know who Faker is, he's the greatest of all time in League of Legends, won 6 world championships, 3 in one era, 3 in a different era. Chovy was always said to be better than Faker and won everything, the Korean title, MSIs, everything over Faker until it came to Worlds. Chovy could win 20 more MSIs, but if he never wins a Worlds, I don't think he would ever be seen as the GOAT over Faker. The same way that a fighting game player could win 1 million events and never win an Evo and never be seen as a GOAT. Imagine if, what's a random NBA player? A random NBA player won 40 NBA Cups, the NBA tournament that happens in the middle of the season. 40 of them. No NBA championship. Could you compare them to Michael Jordan and LeBron? No, you couldn't. Simply put, you have to take within context of the culture of an esport what each title means. And SI just holds way too much significance. Like, way too much. It's a fucking sledgehammer, for Christ's sake. Like, it is considered a different tier of trophy. And I'll pass it on now because I've been rambling for way too long.
Does anybody disagree with what Fett said? I guess is the question that needs to be asked.
Not even slightly. I think everybody puts Siege on such a, or not Siege, sorry, the Hammer, the Invitational on such a high pedestal compared to every other thing in Siege, EWC, majors, no matter what it is. Like we had that reload event, like it's invite or nothing for the GOAT. I mean, as simple as that.
Yeah. I think there is unfortunately a part of our esport that really does downplay non-SI events. And this was something that Fett, mentioned that was talked about in the Reddit thread. And, I see this from a talent perspective, right? Like a caster perspective. I remember having a conversation with Launders. He's the Counter-Strike caster, does color work. He's part of the Scrawny Launders duo, does a lot of blast events. Personal friend of mine. And I just remember talking to him about the way that Counter-Strike structured their events, because when he was asking about Rainbow Six, he's like, "Oh, you guys have majors." And I was like, "Yeah, but like the community doesn't really see majors as it being that important," which kind of blew him away because at the time there was a lot of really good Counter-Strike talent, right? You had like Anders and Semler, you had like Henry and Sadokist, you had like DDK and Bardolph, and basically like in most people's eyes, those were the 3 top duos, and they worked everything. And I remember Launders telling me, he's like, "Dude, people care so much about CS and majors that he's like, you can be an up-and-coming Counter-Strike talent, and you will not work a major as a caster for like 4 or 5 years, because that's how prestigious a major is," right? Obviously, Counter-Strike doesn't have a world championship like we do. To a lot of people, they would probably consider it like IEM Cologne like the Cathedral of Counter-Strike. That is like the big event for most people. They don't have, because it is, not the same kind of circuit as us. Counter-Strike doesn't have one really big event that has to be won like we do. And obviously Counter-Strike is run entirely by third-party TOs, whereas Ubisoft has a hand in our circuit. So it's not a comparable. It's not a direct one for one. But I do agree with Launders, and I agreed with his perspective. It's like, if you're working a major, you should be the best of the best. There shouldn't be newer talent cutting their teeth on a major. Like, if a team qualifies for a major that isn't like a pro team, like for example, for SI, Project Zero, now known as Team Heretics, which we'll get into in a little bit, they qualified. That is huge. This is an unsponsored team from T2EU that is now going to be competing at the biggest event of the year. That's a huge storyline. We should be talking about that. That's a momentous occasion for them. I think people kind of sleep on how important even just Pro League finals are versus majors versus SI. Like, it is a huge accomplishment to go through the meat grinder that is qualification through your various regional leagues or through qualifiers, to then go to groups, make it through groups, make it into the playoff stage, get through that, play on main stage, and then win it all. That is humongous, right? And I think it's at the point where if you don't win SI, obviously that's a black mark on your record, of course. The best of the best should be able to win SI. But if you're Shaiko, and let's say he never wins SI and he retires, but he wins like 6 majors, I think that's enough to start putting him in the GOAT territory, because we are not just a one-man show. We are a full unit. It's a full team. It's a team sport. You can have the single greatest player to ever touch the game, and if you put them on a team with 4 of me, they're not going to be going anywhere, right? So when we talked about the Nesk discussion last week, we basically said, like, Nesk was never really the problem. He could have easily won an SI, and he came pretty damn close, not just SI, but majors as well. I think if you are the best person to ever play the game, you need to win an SI. But to be in that conversation, as you so well put, Dream, I think Shaiko can be in that conversation. But I also don't think there's anybody who's saying he's the best to ever do it. A lot of people probably have Pengu or Fabian in that spot right now, and I think rightly so. Both of whom, by the way, have won SI. But I do think, and I will be the lone dissenting vote here, I will say that I think there exists a possibility that you can be the GOAT without winning SI. I just don't think we're ever going to see it. You'd basically need to win everything else for a long period of time and be completely dominant everywhere. And basically they just chalk up, oh, you didn't win SI to like bad luck. And then maybe we can have that conversation. But I will join you for the most part, all 3 of you, and say that if you really truly are the best who's ever done it, you should either be able to have a team built around you, or you should be able to force your way off of a bad team and onto a good one where you can finally win. The topic's not done.
Oh my god.
Even though everybody smiled and kind of agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Parker. I think I more so agree with that, which is where I was going to, where if you just won everything besides an SI, I do think there's a question you can ask. And I don't think anyone here is disagreeing that Shaiko's legendary, right? Like, there's like, maybe he's not the GOAT, but he's legendary. I think when we were even talking about Mount Rushmore the other day when we did the podcast, I think Fett even had Shaiko up there and as a possibility to be on the Mount Rushmore, right? If I believe. So it's like he's definitely up there legendary wise. Yeah. And some people will even argue, I think another big point for Shaiko is he not the #1 earner in Siege if money is ever a factor in the GOAT debate, which I know, again, competitors, we're not more so there for the money. We're more so there for the history, the legacy of the game. That's what SI is about. But I believe, if I saw a Reddit thread correctly, this invite, he's got a chance at being the first player to break $1 million, which a lot of that came from EWCs winning those
3 EWCs ones. Yeah,
that'll definitely help.
If you're curious, and I mean, I'm not going to show any numbers on the screen. Shaiko is in first for esports earnings. Now, obviously, this comes by way of esportsearnings.com, so it's not exactly a perfect science. I don't know how they calculate this. It could be wrong. But if you go off their website, Shaiko is first with almost effectively $800,000 US. And then Bride is second with 664,000. And then it goes to the Brazilians of Herds, JV, KZ, and Fellapox. And then our good friend, Canadian, is in 7th. But yeah, Shaiko is $210,000 away from $1 million, and that's just winnings. That's not endorsement, sponsorship, stream money. You get paid monthly salary as well to compete on these teams. None of that's included.
So yeah, let's take that into account. And I'm sure this was going to come up later, or like as we went a little bit deeper. But like, let's say he does win this SI. I know when we get to predictions, Falcons are probably in most people's here top 2. Like they are a favorite to win this event. And let's say he does win that SI. He's now the first player to get over $1 million. And I believe he's the first player to have ever won an S tier event in every category, aka a major, an EWC, and invitational. I think a couple of them might be the only player that's ever happened to, but definitely Shaiko, right? With Jonkoping major, EWCs multiple, SI. So only one to hold all those trophies in all those categories. The only player to be over $1 million. Does that do enough to leapfrog over Fabian and over Pengu then?
I mean, if you want me to say this, like, I don't rate EWC very highly. We've talked about this on the show before. I know that there were some people in the comments who agreed with me, some people who disagreed with me, and this is another good discussion point here for those of you watching the show. How do you view EWC? You know, is it an S tier event that's at the top, like, or do you think it is below even like a pro league finals, like or seasonal finals? Like, I'm curious what our viewers think of it, because I know that it kind of cuts both ways, where people are like, it's really just for the money, nobody else cares about it beyond that. Obviously, the upcoming circuit changes for this year make EWC a bit more important because it gives you a direct spot to SI. So obviously that's huge. Not just that, but also there's a huge prize pool. But like, I personally, like, I don't rate EWC very high. Like, I've talked to teams that are like, we're just going because it's cool and it's a lot of money, and then they don't, like, they lose and they're just like, who cares? And then they go home, right? Like, so if I hear players say that, I don't rate whatever event that might be. It was, you know, the teams felt the same way in Vegas at the US division or US Nationals finals, or whatever the hell it was. It was like, let's go to Vegas and gamble and then show up hungover and play a 1-stage match in Vegas and then go home. Like, oh no, you know. I don't rate EWC very high. I think when you look at somebody like Shaiko, I think the closest comparison to Shaiko I see is Simple, right? Both of them were banned. Both of them were, you know, allegedly caught cheating. Both of them served their time. Both of them came back. They bounced around on different teams with different rosters, but largely stuck to the same crew. You know, it took Simple a long time to finally win something big. Same with Shaiko. Like, I see them as very close comparisons, but the difference is that Simple didn't have the same opponents that I feel like Shaiko did. Shaiko has more competition. Simple was always very clearly like the best person in the server. I don't think you can always say that for Shaiko over the last like 5 years. So it's like, if he continues up on his current trajectory, which is doing well, and if the Falcons do win SI or win another couple majors or whatever, then I think, yeah, he can start to enter that conversation. But I don't know. I'm arguing with myself as this episode goes along, because I'm like, he's good. He's clearly good enough. And I mean, I don't know what he's like as a teammate, but he's clearly good enough where like he can stand up against the best of the best in an SI grand final. Like, he should be able to win it. But then I do know that there are some events where he's kind of gotten worse the deeper into Eternity that they've gone, and you've had guys like Brede or Uzis or Leaky Fac have to pick up the pace. So I don't know. This is one of the few times, I'm a man of opinions. This is one of the few times where I don't really have a hardened opinion here.
Agreed.
I'm actually thinking of the opinion that if he does win this SI, he could be considered the GOAT, in my opinion. I think all you kind of need is that one hammer, and then you can use the other accolades or whatever to like reinforce that hammer, if that makes sense. So it strengthens your argument that you have all this other stuff on your resume. And as long as you have that one hammer, that you could say that de facto you were that world champion, you were that best player, especially with all his MVPs and stuff too. Like, I could definitely see a world where he is like the #1 GOAT. With how mechanically talented and stuff he is too, for sure.
Let me interject for 1 second here and just pose a question. When we discuss like that Mount Rushmore of Siege, or like the 3 or 4 best people, right? The 3 names that usually are widely accepted are Pengu, Fabian, and Canadian in no particular order. They all have a couple things in common. Number one, they've all won a major. They've all won a Pro League finals. and all of them have won multiple Six Invitationals. Shaiko has just a major. The Onshiping major was kind of a dud, but I mean, it's still a major win. Can't really take that away from them. EWC 50-50 whether it matters. If Shaiko wins just one SI, is that enough for him to like surpass Pengu, Fabian, and Canadian in your eyes? Like, do you think that's enough, or do you think it just puts him farther into the conversation without actually supplanting them?
I think for the era. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
Sorry,
Fett,
no, I'm
for
so
the,
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
For the era of Siege that he's in, I 100% think he could be put in to the #1 GOAT slot, because you even said it before, like he has more competition. You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
Like all these players have been grinding for years. I mean, incredibly talented. A bunch of other rosters. He's fighting against like the best of the best, and yeah, I really think he could be put up in that #1 slot.
Yeah, like I totally agree. I said it at last Boston too. Like I remember clickbaiting his first game is like this is the most important tournament of career, because if he wins it, in my opinion, it cements him. Like because he's been so good for so long. Like look, I just want to put this in perspective, because a lot of people, I feel like they see our opinion and they're like, these guys, they don't know how good he is, dude. Shaiko has been what was the most dominant player, I would say, gap to individually the rest of like the world when he first got unbanned, right? Like this guy was on Hibana running in with the hollow. Hibana. Back during an era where like you're like, oh, you're on Harbridge, don't die. If you die, you're a terrible player. That was like like what was talked about at the time. He was on Hibana running in, like just gapping people, right? Fast forward to now, he's still the top rated player on his team at multiple events on multiple games, MVPing games, right? People copy his settings, people copy how he plays. His impact is immeasurable. That being said, I think greatness goes beyond just skill. I think greatness goes to how much can you make those around you better and lead them to victory. That's why is KD the GOAT of basketball? His answer is just a hard no every single time. KD might be the most consistent, best basketball player ever, right? But
Kevin Durant?
Yeah, Kevin Durant. He scores insanely consistently. He always scores. He scores an insane amount. He goes to the Olympics and drops 30 on everyone's head every single time he goes to the Olympics. And no one rates him as the GOAT. Because I think when you look at players like Kobe, like Jordan, like LeBron, they lead their team to championships. I think that level of spreading it beyond. So that's why for me, I can't just look at, and especially as a coach who competed, and I'm sure Mint and Dream can think of this too, because like we're very biased because we're the competitors ourselves. And when you're a competitor, the only thing that matters is that win, right? And if you have a player who just, oh, my team's shit and I can't do anything about it, that's not greatness. That is not a greatness mentality. Your greatness mentality is I'm going to lift everyone up. I'm going to make these guys comfortable. I'm going to enable them. I'm going to inspire them to work harder and be better than themselves today. And I'm going to push with them to lift that hammer. I think that's greatness. Now, I want to answer the thing because there's a lot of topics being brought here, but they're really good. I want to answer and address that EWC thing, right? Because I think there's a very clear objective answer to that. A lot of viewers will scratch their heads when they get to the game casual. It's like, why are people talking about like majors and EWCs as less than SI? And simply put, the objective answer is format. Format directly determines how competitive an event is. Now, there's two factors considered though, is era and format. So right now, if you just watched the Munich Major and you were like, why are you guys rating a major that low? That's because the current era of a major tournament is the most competitive it's ever been. And the game will naturally become the most competitive it's ever been as the game progresses. Simply because that's how games work. People get better as the game progresses. And that's why you see less dynasties in almost every single competitive medium ever the older that competitive medium gets. That's just simply how it is, right? That most recent major format was the closest to an SI relative to that year that a major format has ever been. But let's rewind the clock back to 2022, right? Four groups, 4 teams per group, single elim 8-team bracket. there was always like two shit region groups in a group, two shit region teams in a group. You're basically guaranteed to make playoffs as long as you're not from a shit region, and then single elim bracket, 8 teams, boom, right? And that was the event, and there was 3 of those. So when you take that into account, there's almost like a direct comparison here. Like, obviously, I agree with what Min said. If Shaiko wins everything for 3 more years, and it's like, oh, he got unlucky with SI, he can be the GOAT. But in this current climate, there's another guy who won a 2022 major and also has an SI. In fact, he has 2 SIs. Even if the first one doesn't even count because there's only 6 teams in that bitch, 2020 was a double elim bracket with a shit ton of teams. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a direct comparison to be made there. And I think with the current environment, like, you have to take into account, like, the competitive format of these group stages, Swiss stages, play-ins. These are all formats to make the event as competitive as possible. Double elim, BO3s, BO5s. Like, imagine if a grand final was BO1 as a viewer, you'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with this event, right? They're there for a reason. So when EWC lasts 4 days and you have to eliminate half the teams in 1 day, you don't really give a lot of time for teams to play the gauntlet and for the quote-unquote best teams to get to the top. Because that's what a Swiss stage and a group stage and a double elim bracket is for. Is letting the teams that are like the most consistently good over time get to the top. EWC right now, you play a BO1 and a BO3 and you're done. You fly 18 hours to Saudi Arabia and you could go home in a day. Like, that's as simple as it is. And I think this year they increased it to 22 teams on their website and the duration on their website. And I really hope that's just the main stage portion, because my biggest gripe with EWC has always been the length of the event. If it's that short, you cannot make it competitive because it's that short. If you have more teams and less days, you have to get rid of more teams even faster. Even the pros are complaining about that, right? Like, yeah, they're going to take it seriously because it's fucking millions of dollars. Of course they're going to take it seriously. But there's an objective answer to, hey, why are we talking about the Yanchiping major event like this? Because, well, relative to the SI of that year that had like 20-something teams, double elim bracket, like 5-team groups, 1 team gets eliminated and then fucking run the whole gauntlet. It's just it's format. It's always going to be format, you know? And format and era is the objective answer to why people view it that way. And I want to know what you guys think of that too.
Yeah, I think overall you're right. I mean, it's definitely like, because some of those players we were naming that are in contention for the greatest of all time, Troy, Mr. Canadian up there with 2 invites, but we look at how, besides the SSG one, the one before that was very, very long ago, right?
It was the first
17?
SI too, 2017. And
So it's
I
like-
mean,
Yeah. What?
I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with this, Mint. You might not.
Mhm.
There is a wide swath of the community that views anything before SI 2017 as like not real, like almost like it was like the prologue to our esport, and that year 2 was when things really kicked off.
I'd actually agree with that, and I played during then, but it really
Yeah.
was plumbers and people figuring it out and stuff like that. I think where I start really counting things is when we had the merge, the whole merger with Xbox, to be honest, because I feel like that's when actual, like, all the good players across the across the game were able to play in one league together.
Yeah.
And that kicked out a lot of really bad PC players, to be honest.
What year did that happen?
It was
Like,
28.
did the
It was
merge?
20. Technically, it was right after SI 2017.
Okay.
So SI 2017 was the last one we had the 2 different leagues, and then right after SI 2017, Brazil became an officially supported region, so we expanded to 3. And then later that year, APAC also became an officially added region. So we had Brazil join around like February, March 2017, and then APAC joined like November 2017, October 2017, if memory serves correctly.
So 2018 sounds competitive then. Like, that's like
Yeah.
when everything was starting to come together. That sounds like a great thing to me, and that's kind of my point with that. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, I agree with what Fett's saying, with the whole the time relevant be being more recent stuff in the format. The only thing with EWC, Dream, I'm curious, as you've been to an EWC with OXG or no?
Yep, with OXG,
Okay.
I went to one.
So I'm curious because I've heard from Parker who talked to some players that didn't really take it serious, but I've also heard from other pro players where, and this might be selfish because we're looking at the money, but some pro players actually rate it above a major because it is so much. It's literally the money of a Six Invitational. And because Parker's point before, we're like, we don't really take majors that seriously as a community. It's kind of just an event. So from what I've heard in circles is that if we were putting an order of things, it's more like Six Invitational, then the EWC, then the majors. But I'm curious what you think, Dream, as being at one.
Yeah, I mean, speaking as a pro, it's definitely SI number one, and then EWC number two. I would say for the general pro community, everybody thinks that, and it's probably the money, to be honest. I mean, it's a substantial amount of money, and it goes by quick. As well as I remember, at least when EWC first started, when I went on OXG, I mean, where they set you up, where they put you, the food you're eating, like it's all like S tier stuff. It's really nice. Even where you play was really, really nice. So everybody just like considers it like a good event to go to, like a great event to play it at. The only unfortunate part, obviously, is how fast the tournament is. Like Fett was saying, like the whole format, you really can just fly 12 hours and then have to go home the next day. So it's pretty brutal in that aspect for sure.
The same applied for the regular Pro League finals. I remember the very first event, obviously, that I worked was the Sao Paulo 2017 finals that Black Dragons and ENCE played in the final, and then ENCE won. I remember one of the teams, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. INS, I think was the name of the team. It was the Japanese team. They quite literally flew like 20 plus hours to land, practice for one day, play a single best of 3, get smoked. They won one round and then literally flew home like the next morning. So it's brutal. I think your point about EWC is interesting because like setting aside obviously like my political opinions on like the EWC, as a viewer, there's nobody in the audience. Viewership is terrible. Like the general community doesn't seem to care about it. Like it doesn't have any like position in the legacy of this game. Like obviously I as both a caster and as like just an observer of the sport, because I do watch the game, I see it differently than the players. To the players, it might be super important because the prize pool is so big. But like then we have to ask the question, does prize pool determine where things are in, you know, in like in our global circuit? Because like to me it's like I don't give a shit how much money the teams are making. I care about like the reputation and the legacy. And in my eyes, it's like just because a petro state with, you know, a royal family with more money than God can just throw money at an event, but the audience is still completely empty and it's pulling like 2,000 viewers at absolute most. Like to me, I'm like, that's not relevant. Like, I'm glad that the players get to make a lot of money, but like the majors are promoted in our ecosystem. Like tickets are sold. It's well advertised. Like it's tied in with UB events. Like it's fully sanctioned. Like Ubisoft is there. The TO bakes it in. Like teams have to qualify. Like, I don't know. I see majors as infinitely more important than EWC. But if the players are like, hey, all we care about is the paycheck, or most of what we care about is the paycheck, then yeah, I can see why EWC would be higher on like their tier list. But like to me, it's just like I watch it, crowd's empty, nobody seems to care. The teams don't even seem as animated as they do at a major, and I'm just kind of like, okay, that's my take. So
I thought this year for EWC was a little weird considering like you had to qual through like the Pro League circuit for EWC, and then there was
last year, right?
Or last year, yeah, last year.
Yeah.
And then there was no like invite points or like anything at all once you're actually there and playing. I did think that was a little odd. Like, why would we have to qual
I can
through
expand on that.
Okay.
I can explain that if you want. So basically, because EWC is a beast of EFG, ESL Faceit Group, Blast is obviously a competing TO.
Yep.
So Blast is not going to like want to promote a competing circuit for obvious reasons, right? Like just how ESL wouldn't want to promote a competing region or a competing TO when they were in power, right? So what I was told was this was from somebody at EFG, basically because of how condensed the circuit was at that point in time of the year, EFG just decided, hey, let's just take the top 4 teams in each region. That was it. It was not like a partnership or anything. It's not like Ubisoft went and were like, here are the parameters to get teams there. It was like EFG were like, how do we determine who comes to the event? And then they're like, well, what if we just take the top 4 teams in every region? And that was basically it. So if you go back and listen to some of the broadcasts, certain casters reference that, and other casters like me didn't, because like I'm paid by Blast. I'm not, and it's like, and I don't like EWC. I'm not going to start promoting, EWC on the show. It was just kind of like EFG didn't have a way to do it. They figured this was the easiest way, and that was it. It was not a part of the Rainbow Six circuit. It had no bearing on our esport. It was a completely separate event. This year in 2026, obviously it's now a part of the circuit because now it gives you now it gives you that SI spot. So it's different this year than it was last.
Heard.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I do know some people were confused as to why that happened, and
I've also heard from a lot of pros that they put an EWC over a major, probably purely because of prize pool. And I think this is another one of those things where it's just, again, it has to be context dependent, specific to the game, right? Because a lot of people's arguments about overall S tiers falls apart when it comes to like comparing EWCs, right? Because like one of the people's arguments is, oh, like winning SI, or Yanchiping major is harder than like the year before that. Well, it's the same thing with EWC. You have to remember what it looked like first, because right now people are legitimizing it a lot because it's integrating slowly and slowly more into our circuit, right? Like this year, if you win, you play a Pro League stage to get into EWC, and if you win EWC, you make SI. No one else gets SI points, but you make SI if you win EWC. Last year, you play a Pro League stage into EWC, but no one gets shit for SI, so it wasn't in the SI circuit, right? The year before that, because like let's start remembering now. Like people really legitimize them now, and I get that because it's kind of in our circuit now. But the year before that, 4 teams were invited off like, I get it was like the SI placings, right? But that was like an arbitrary decision. That was like there was no points, there was no nothing. It was just, how do we pick the best teams in the world from each region? Oh, the top 3 at SI were NA, EU, Brazil. Perfect. Boom, invite them, right? And then the next 4 were from open qualifiers in each region. So imagine playing a T3 qualifier, except, and it's best, by the way, best of a 1 single elim bracket T3 qualifier, open qualifier.
For $2 million.
Yeah, for $2 million. It was like the most scuffed thing ever. And then let's go back a year before that, 2022, first ever Gamers 8. People didn't even participate in the qualifiers because they thought it was a scam.
My team thought it was a scam. We didn't do it on OXG. We said that I don't think that's a real thing. Let's not do it. And we didn't. And then we saw, I believe it was TSM that went, and they came back raving about it, saying it was like awesome as like a player to like obviously be a part of that. And I was like, well, okay, I guess we're playing it next year.
Yeah. So it's a very like we have to understand like the view, like if you're confused about the average view or maybe the view that Parker has, it stems from that. It's like you have to be there to like see like, oh, it ramped up really fast. So if you just got into the esport now, you're probably scratching your head like a Pro League stage plays into it and it qualifies for SI. What the fuck are you talking about, Fett? What the fuck are you talking about, Parker? But like you have to understand the context of that. Plus, if you want to compare to other games, like the viewers in other games, honest to God, think EWC is like a complete joke. Like I've heard from so many viewers that the CS viewers just don't even give a shit about it. The League viewers kind of give a shit about it, but like not really. Just because Casual streams it. But yeah, otherwise the viewers in the other games think it's a complete joke. I don't know about the pros. The pros probably care about it because it's a lot of money, and like whenever you have a competition, you want to compete, right? But yeah, I think that's my best way of rationalizing, format, era, reason, objectivity, why the viewers might delegitimize it. Now, obviously, as a if they introduce SI points next year, then I think it's like fully in our circuit. And like at that point, yeah, for me, fully above a major. I think right now it could be fully above a major too, because the Pro League stage plays into it. But it's a very fast ramp up.
I don't know if Min has something to add here, but I mean the point that I always come back to, and this is not exclusively an EWC thing. This is other events. Just because you have a lot of money and you create an event that you say has a lot of prestige doesn't make it so, right? Like it needs gravitas. Like you need the best of the best to go. You need a good prize pool. You need a good trophy. You need some kind of like legacy behind it. Like you need good matches. You need good organization. Like I don't doubt for a second that the behind the scenes aspect of EWC is stellar. You're in a country that is run by basically one family that has enough money to do whatever they want. Of course, they're going to put you up in a really nice hotel. Of course, they're going to pay for really nice flights. Of course, the food's going to be great. Like you can have a chauffeur. Like that's kind of the point. Like, I mean, if we do bring up the whole idea behind sports washing, the idea is to wash a poor reputation by showing certain people a better side of it. Like, and I Dream, obviously this isn't directed at you, but I was actually kind of surprised the first time it was EWC, or it might have even still been like Gamers 8 or Gamers Without Borders or whatever it was called at the time, but it's still a decent prize pool. And I just kind of chuckled when I saw players being like, oh my God, like this place is so nice. I'm like, what did you think like Saudi Arabia was? Like Mars? Like, of course, like they're going to have nice shit there. Like they're like, no duh. Like the whole point of it is to bring you out there and have you lavish praise on them and say like, wow, like I heard terrible things and now like the hotel is really nice and they're such nice people. And it's like, well, yeah, of course, they're going to show you that side of it because they want you to basically take that impression and then spread it around. But I don't want this whole conversation to revolve just around EWC because we obviously have a schedule to keep to and we still have all the groups to talk about. But I do just want to kind of bring it back and say that the reason why I put majors up higher is because they're baked into our circuit, right? Like EWC, obviously, if it becomes a part of the circuit and it becomes its own major, then it basically meets that same criteria. But to me, it's like, we are not just run by third-party organizers like Counter-Strike is, like Dota is, et cetera. Like Ubisoft basically cultivates a circuit for us. And whatever TO at the time, whether it was ESL for, the first 6 years, whether it was Faceit for a couple years after that, whether it's Blast now, like doesn't matter. Or well, EFG for 6 years technically was ESL for 3 years or 4 years, and then Faceit for 2.5. Anyway, the point is that like whatever TO works with them builds it in. There's stuff in game, there's trophies that are very specific. Like, the busts now at the majors are really cool. They usually revolve around an operator. Like all that stuff, I think gives it more importance and more weight in our game. Like, so that's how I see it, where it's like, yeah, a major isn't the be all end all. Yeah, Pro League finals, a season final is not the be all end all. But we have a bad habit as a game of only really caring about SI, kind of like how Dota only really cares about the international. And I remember actually Monty at the Mexico Major was like, why do your regional teams not care more about who's the best in the NAL or who's the best in the EUL or, or LATAM or whatever? He's like, we had teams that would like fight each other in blood sport for like best in LCS and best in LEC. And we'd hang banners up of like, we were the best team of like this LEC split. And he's like, in Rainbow, none of these teams seem to give a shit about it. None of these teams seem to care about regional finals. And it's a great question to ask. Like, how do we get teams to care more about events? Screw EWC. Think exclusively about like Pro League finals, regional finals, and majors. How do we get people in this esport to care more about that? Is it a higher prize pool? Is it a charm in game? Is it a skin in game? Is it a moment on a map? Is like, how do we get more people to care about that? This is not a real question that we need to discuss, by the way, because this topic is actually still about Shaiko and Shaiko being a GOAT. But I don't know if you guys want to like come back to the Shaiko topic or move on. But like, what do you think? What should we do right now for the next, let's say the next like 5 minutes? You want to talk about Shaiko still?
I got everything out.
Yeah, I'm down to move on to what we can do to make the like majors and Pro League finals and stuff more prestigious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how would you? Why? So, Dream, let me ask you, and I will ask Mint when you used to play. So, Fett, I'm going to sideline you just for a second here. As former competitors and as a current competitor, why do teams not really seem to care about like the NAL finals that much? Why do they not care about regional finals? Brazil cares about BR6. Why do you feel like Europe and North America don't care that much?
I honestly think it's because it's not like international play. That's when everybody in Siege says like it's the best is when you're playing at international. I guess in NA like you just play against each other so much, you know what everybody does. It's maybe a little easier to like adapt to what everyone's kind of doing. At least I think anybody can beat anybody. Um, and that's what makes it like NA like that's what makes international feel so competitive, right? It's because you don't really know as well like what everyone's doing. Um, but in terms of like making it feel more prestigious, I mean, I don't even know. Like, I think what you brought up, like a charm or a skin or something, like would be really cool for like a player aspect. Like, I definitely think that'd be sick. Um, but I do think it starts with like the mentality of like just thinking it's more important. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly how you go about doing that.
Um, coming from me, I'm trying to think like back when I was a player and wasn't one of like back then you had to be like the top 2 to qualify for international events, right? I believe it was like the top 2 in NA. And it was like I feel like the first step as a team is like your first goal that you set out if you're a new team joining the NAL or joining whatever region is you have to be competitive regionally. Like that is your first step. And after being a juggernaut, being on DZ and making every international event, because our goal was not winning regionally anymore. Like Dream said, like it's all about winning internationally at that point. Like you have to win internationally. Winning regionally means nothing. That's just how we're trained in NA. And I feel like a big part of that though is like maybe a hot take, but it's pretty easy to know who's going to make playoffs in like NA and EU. Like we have juggernauts.
Yeah,
we have
that is true.
juggernauts and we know who's the best teams in regionally. We know who's going. The season is kind of just, I don't want to say it, but it's kind of a waste of time because I know who's going to finish in the top 6. We're just kind of wasting a month of like, cool, I get to see some people play some maps. Great. I'm having a great time. I'm watching, I'm co-streaming matches, but I know who's going to finish top 6. Maybe there's one surprise, that 6th spot, maybe, but I know who's going to finish in the top 5 in most of these regions. And then playoffs come and we watch the same teams play each other again, which sure is great, especially for co-streamers. We get to watch Siege, but it's like we pretty much know who's going to make it out. Like EU, I know it's going to be Falcons. I know it's going to be Secret. I know G2. They're going to be they're going to be at these events. NA, I know M80. I know not DZ anymore.
SR.
You know, I know SR. SR is good regionally.
SSG.
SSG has been the best team
Dominant.
technically. NA regionally doesn't do anything internationally, and we'll talk about that later. But it's like maybe if we had 10 competitive teams and it was like actually like holy cow, we won regionally, that's amazing. But right now I don't want to say it's kind of a joke, but it kind of is a joke. You're just I don't care if I finish first in NA. I don't care if I finish 4th in NA. As long as I qualified to an international event, that's it. Seeding doesn't matter to me.
I also think maybe a part of that too is like we have teams in the league that don't even get like paid. So like how can you have like a competitive ecosystem and like be super prestigious and everyone's like, "Oh, like we need to watch that," if you don't even have 10 solid teams all getting paid, all putting in as much training and effort as they can like to win? Like I don't know.
You got JJ going to school and scrimming 3 maps a day, and M80 making $8,000 plus, putting 10 plus hours a day with world championship GOAT status Fabian right behind him. It's like, how do you compete?
Well, don't the Falcons even have like 3 coaches and a nutritionist team and therapists? Like
12 therapists. And,
yeah.
Yep.
How are they not going to get top
Their
3?
therapists have therapists just in case things get real bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a question it's actually very interesting to think about, especially since like, you know, what if it's our fault? What if it's my fault? What if it's my fault as an influencer? I'm not fucking, you know, this shit's serious for real. And like you look at other games, other sports, and it's almost like the same trends occur, right? Because I think one of the reasons why it happens in Siege is because like there's not I guess like the media coverage isn't as powerful as it can be, and therefore the line from the pros, the communication from the pros to the viewers directly gets said more, right? Where and as a result, this mentality of just because you're the best in your region has nothing to do with how well you'll do internationally, essentially, right? Like the main goal is
Yeah.
to cross that line of getting there, and then after that, it's a whole different game because every region has their own like map pool that they're special at and their own place out that they're special at. Let's say you counter your own region, right? And you get first place in your own region. You go to international and you lose all the strength that your region has in terms of how unique it is. You know? You countered your own region and then but now you just play 12th place Brazilian Siege. And those Brazilian teams have been playing against each other Brazilian Siege their whole lives. And you just get washed out the water. And it's very interesting because in League of Legends, the same shit happens. Like T1 these last 3 years, David, correct me if I'm wrong, have never really been the best Korean team. No, they've always been like at Worlds. The banner on them is always number 4 LCK, number
Yep.
3 LCK. Yeah. It's the same concept. It's not like that's gone. But it's like I
Faker
think
happens.
they're so good at brainwashing their viewers into being like, well, Genji won everything domestically. They're the best Korean team. How the fuck do they suck at Worlds? And it's like it's such an easy concept for us to grasp because we're competitors. But like they keep like every time they're so good at brainwashing their viewers. They're like, oh my god. This team is the best Korean team. This time, bro. This time, Faker's washed, bro. He's not gonna do it again. And then Faker fucking does it again. So I don't know either. I mean, I also do think the format we have now is a bit chalk. I just looked at the LCK format, and it's low-key a bit similar. So I actually don't know how the fuck League of Legends does it every single time. But I remember the regional league started mattering a lot less. No diss to Blast, because I've only ever experienced Blast. I think they're fine. But it started mattering a lot less when we started doing that thing where your placement in round robin essentially didn't matter. And then you just had to clear top 6 to make playoffs, and the real region started from there. Like I think the old like
Would agree with
remember
that.
like the old round robin like standing system where it's like week 8 or 7 or whatever, like one of the later weeks, it was just a bloodbath of just like if this guy wins this game and this team does this and oh my fucking god, Mirage can make the major, you know? Off of one game. That's when it fucking kind of mattered. A lot more, I would say. But then again, at the same time, like if you look at League, the LCK works the same way. It's like you do this big round fucking robin, and then you do like this road to MSI or like the LCK playoffs to make Worlds, and it's basically the same format. So I don't really know. I don't know. I got nothing.
I do want to raise a little point here, though. Do we all agree? And you're welcome to disagree. If FaZe or Furia don't finish in first in Brazil, do we really consider whatever team finished first in Brazil to qualify for an event to be the best team out of Brazil? Because I say no. Like, I don't care where FaZe or Furia finish interregionally. To me, they're still the 2 best teams in Brazil with the best shot of winning the major, or SI. They could literally, one of them could come through LCQs and the other could finish dead last of the qualified teams. And I'm still like, yeah, that's Furia and FaZe. They're built to win an international event, right? To go back to your point, they don't give a shit if they lose to like Fluxo W7M. They don't care if they lose to Liquid. Like, as long as they make it to the event, they're always competitive.
Yep.
So like, I assume based on your reactions here that everybody here agrees. Like, if you've got like G2 in their prime, like that Penta G2 team, there were events where they weren't the best team to qualify. And they still won it all because that's just who they are and they don't need to try. They just need to make the event and then they can turn on the jets, right? So sometimes you build your team to be the best in the region and sometimes you build it to win events. Sometimes there's overlap, sometimes there isn't. To answer my own question, I think that the way that you make interregional competitions more important is you either weight the qualifications for majors or SI heavier so that actually winning all but guarantees you a spot in whatever event it will be. Could be additional prize pool, could be way more money for doing it. we obviously don't have the added benefit that like League has, where they have the same studios that are played in, month in, month out. So there's nowhere for us to hang banners at this point in time. But I think like immortalizing the teams that win their regions with a skin or a charm goes a long way to make teams care about it more. Maybe, the players get a direct cut versus the org. Who knows? I think there's ways that you can do it. I wish that we cared more about some of these events outside of just SI. And this is a perfect time for us to loop us back to the final conclusion of this topic about Shaiko. And the question that I want to ask before we move on is, what do you think will happen to Falcons if they don't win SI? Do you think that the pressure on them is so great, being that they are a primarily French team? Falcons obviously is a Saudi Arabian organization, but most of the people on the team are French. Do you think that they make some roster moves if they fail SI? What do you think that means for the team moving forward? And what do you think that means for Shaiko and his legacy moving forward? Or do you think this is just another SI and everything else is just us trying to build storylines around him being French, him playing in France, and all the promotional material so far has just been showing him off because he's such a big figure in our community?
I'll take it. I see everyone's got the cog wheels turning. For me, I look, maybe a hot take, but I don't like to look at Reddit or Twitch chat or Twitter. And when
Smart.
when a team loses an event, I don't think to immediately call for roster change and blow up the roster. I'm not dramatic in that sense. Someone very wise told me right before the Charlotte Major that it's all about putting yourself in contention. That's the only thing you could do, is be a team that puts yourself in a contention, and then it's about who gets put in front of you, the bracket put in front of you, right? I bet right now, if we all had M80 versus Falcons in the grand final again, I think M80 wins. Probably the majority of us would probably say that. If maybe M80 gets knocked out of this tournament, then maybe we're saying Falcons win the tournament. And it's like, so it's all about bracket and matchup and things like that when you get to the highest level in Siege. So I do think currently this Falcons roster is in contention, and if they kept the exact same core and somehow managed to get over the mental hurdle and like ignore the outside noise about trying to break you guys up as a team and just stick it out for another full year in Siege, metas change. And right now, maybe we're not in the Shield cheese meta, or we are in the Shield cheese meta, and like maybe the Falcons haven't been the best at that, but maybe we shift into a different meta that they are better at. So it's just, yeah, I think I don't think there's gonna be any changes. I think they just should stick together. If you look at the roster, I don't know who the hell you drop. They're one of those teams where it's like, I feel like they're the best at every single role, right? They have an IGL that's able to frag, which is the most rare thing in this entire game, in Lycovac, who's consistently, if I go back to Six Stats, top fragger for him. Then you got obviously Shaiko, the legacy he brings, Brede, the amount of clutch plays he brings, uses going all the way back to M&M, sorry. One of the, like, again, best stat players, very, very consistent. And then Solotov, super happy to see him get his flowers in Munich, even though they lost him getting MVP. People are like, he's got to go. I don't think people know what Solotov does for the team. He's literally the second voice behind Lycovac. He's the reason Lycovac can lurk and do all this other crazy shit, is because Solotov is also a main voice on the team and calling and shot calling for these guys to move their asses so they're not stuck wondering whether they should push white or long bar. You know what I'm saying? So plus he's able to get his, if you look at the entry stats, I mean, he's one of the, like he's going to, first off, as an entry fragger, it's very hard to go plus 60 or whatever the hell he just went. That is not going to be consistent. But he is going to be the guy on Ash, creating space for Shaiko to get in as Deimos. Like, all the roles are working. I think they're fine. I do think this is their year and they're due, and there's probably a lot of pressure on them. And that would be the only thing that would break them up, but I don't think they need to.
I mean, maybe this is more of a hot take. I agree with Kyle, by the way. I don't think they should make any changes. But I think for this upcoming SI, if M80 gets knocked out, I have the Falcons winning the whole thing. At this last major, I thought if M80 were to lose, that Falcons, that was their one to win. They didn't lose. I think M80 like counters how the Falcons want to play. So I think every time they kind of match up, it's a M80 dub. But yeah, I don't think they should make any changes. I don't think they should do anything. I think they have the best like role players in every role, and they're damn hard to beat for sure.
Yeah. I think if they lose in grand finals that they won't make changes, like realistically, like organizationally and player wise. I think I think I don't think there's like the chance of them losing the grand finals. I think they're like really, really likely to win the whole thing because I think it's just such a simple concept for them to win. I think it literally is a mental block, and I think all of Munich they were howling and smiling and laughing, and they got the grand finals. So it's like it was so fucking.
They were
serious.
barking in the grand finals, but
It wasn't the same. Yeah, you know it
Birdie's
wasn't the
bite
same.
was stronger.
But I think if they lost, if on the slight chance that they lost in grand finals again, which I don't think is likely because I think they're really good, I think they should make a roster change because it sounds illogical. It sounds very illogical. But like I think if the mental curse is that strong, you have to switch something up or else like you're just doomed to every time you make a grand finals you get in your own head no matter what.
Yeah.
It's like easier said than done. Like I think one of the telltale signs, I think yes, it's good to get a team therapist, but needing a team therapist in the first place, like kind of like speaks volumes on that mental fortitude. And there's historical precedent of teams being the best or near the best and making changes that the entire world thought wasn't necessary, and then they proved everyone wrong, right? Look at that original D2 roster that cycled out from I think Shate to Kanto, right? And people were
Yeah,
probably
I mean that was a bit different. Shate basically just had a mental breakdown and left, so they had to pick up Kanto though, right?
okay. I don't remember truly around then because I was too young. But the one that I do know about is W7. Now I understand like if you know the actual details behind this, it makes sense. But from an outside view, W7M second place at SI 2023, and then they blow up their roster and get 2 new players, and then like they
It was
just
Volps
like,
and Julio that got
yeah,
moved off the team, right?
Volps and Julio, and then they got Felipox and Nade, and then they won everything after that. But they just got second at SI. Like they literally were second best in the world, and they were really consistent at the last 2 events before that. You know, so there is precedent of like we're really successful, but let's blow this shit up anyways, and then it works out. So it's a huge gamble, man. It's a huge gamble, obviously, and especially if you're an organization and you're making every grand final, you're still pretty happy as like an org owner, right, or like a general viewer. But I think if they lose a grand final, I think losing like at a top 4 would be better for them than losing another grand final. Honest to God, because I think at that point it's just like it seems like an unbreakable curse.
If I could poke the bear,
You
who
may.
would you let go?
I feel like you have to do 2. I feel like at this point,
You would
like
have to do 2. Okay.
you have to shift. I don't know. I feel like I don't fucking know. I actually don't know. I feel like Solotov and Likifek are obviously indispensable.
Mhm.
Shaiko has really been performing,
Mhm.
and I feel like
So that
I hold on. I
leaves
want
us
to fact check you on that point here because
Yeah.
there's I am reading a Reddit comment, which might be my own undoing here.
Go ahead.
But in the 5 grand finals that Shaiko has played, he's gone negative in 3 of the 5. Like there are players who will lose a grand final but still go positive or still dominate. There is an eye test that is not backed up by numbers, of course. That's why it's an eye test. But I have casted Shaiko long enough to know that Shaiko tends to fall off the longer a series goes. Map 1, he's usually really damn good. Map 2, he's usually pretty good. Map 3 is where the wheels kind of start to come off. And he went positive in Munich. Didn't really matter. They finished second, whatever. He went positive in Jönköping. That's great. They won. He went negative in Atlanta. He went negative in Manchester, and he went negative SI25. And it's just like this ties back into our conversation about the GOAT. If you really are like the greatest, you need to know your role very well. If Fabian and Pengu are going negative on that old Penta G2 roster, that means that they're doing their job, because it means that the fraggers are fragging really well, and Fabian and Pengu don't need to go positive. In fact, we actually talked about this quite a lot. When Fabian would go positive in certain matches, we'd be like, this is a problem. He shouldn't be getting this many kills with the offensive threats they have on the team. Shaiko is not just the offensive threat on Falcons anymore. In fact, a lot of the pressure's been taken off of his shoulders by having guys like Leaky Fack and Solotov being able to frag well, right? And Solotov had some huge rounds at Munich in particular. But in Shaiko's position, with Shaiko's potential, his mechanical ability, and the operators that he plays and how the team deploys him, if you're going negative as the guy in most grand finals, you are the guy that is not just supposed to go positive. You are supposed to dominate and drag your team kicking and screaming across the finish line, because that's what the GOAT does. If you're the GOAT, you're the guy who, come hell or high water, you drag the other 4 sorry asses on your team to that finish line. Not only is Shaiko not doing that, but he's going negative in terms of his rating in most of his major grand finals. Like, he's disappearing. He's not performing his role well enough, and he's getting beat by people that probably aren't in that GOAT conversation. Like, I love Diffuser. I think he's a cool guy. I like Hot and Cold. I think he's awesome. Nobody's looking at either of those players and going, yeah, they're one of the greatest to ever play Rainbow Six. I do think, to his credit, Hot and Cold could end up in that conversation on a long enough timeline. Maybe Diffuser could as well. But nobody's looking at that M80 team and picking one person other than Fabian as the coach and being like, yeah, these guys are the greatest of all time. They're in the top 4, top 5 best players to ever touch this game. But if you look across the stage, you've got Shaiko there, and he's in that conversation, and yet he's underperforming on his role consistently. Right? So, like, I actually don't think it's crazy to drop him. I think the reason why you don't drop somebody like Shaiko is because even if he's not the best player on the team, you can find better players to surround him, and he's still Shaiko. It's the same with Nesk. Like, Nesk is Nesk. You don't get rid of him. Just find 4 amazing players and just, carry him like a baby koala. Like, it's very simple. So that's how I see it. And, if they go into this event and they get absolutely blown up and embarrassed, I think that's less devastating for the team, but I do think roster moves happen. I think if they make the grand finals again, and lose, they can still make a roster change, but I completely agree. I don't think you just get rid of one person. I think you either have to break up the whole team or you have to get rid of at least 2. Maybe find new coaching if you think that Julio and, Stuflex aren't getting the job done. But then again, I don't know anything about the inner workings of the squad, so I couldn't even begin to tell you why things are going wrong for them grand final after grand final.
Damn, did we just go from calling Shaiko the GOAT to he's droppable?
Sounds like it.
Quite the conversation, Shay. That's
that's what they said about Paulo and Nesk.
Fabian got dropped.
Yeah.
Fabian got dropped. Canadian got dropped. Like, it happens, right? Like,
well, and I do want to point out, and you guys, like Fett bringing it up. So I'm saying I don't think I should go through the roster change, but you guys are right in the sense of, like, viewers don't see everything, and that's kind of what I was touching on as well, is like, when players get dropped, it might seem like the roster is perfect on paper. We're looking at the Falcons on paper. They're perfect. I think they have the best players in every role, but you don't know how they get along in practice, like seeing each other every day. Like, these are not necessarily friends. They're coworkers. So it's like, you don't, especially when you take losses, I feel like it starts to infect into the team more and more. And you start to have a little bit of doubt creep in the more times you lose with the boys, with your team. So if there is problems in the team, and look, I don't want to throw Shaiko under the bus, but we've seen events where he can also kind of crash out a little bit at like a fact. If you guys have watched the BDS documentary, I believe it was like 3 years ago, there's literally
I thought
clips of them losing map 1 and Shaiko just completely shutting down and yelling at his team, saying he got his and not listening to anybody or anything. He was just like, he was done with it. And it's like, when we were talking about the GOAT conversation, Fett brought up a great point where, to me, the GOAT is somebody that does it helps everybody around, like, adds those leadership qualities and things like that. And you talk about Michael Jordan, like, he was a player that was kind of like Shaiko in that sense of shitting on his teammates constantly and just gonna do it himself in the big games and carry the load. But Shaiko, hasn't been able to do that. You're right. SI, I don't think I've seen a worse SI performance than Shaiko's Manchester run. Fett, you're like, I'm pretty sure he got absolutely shit on that event.
Yeah, I always like I don't like I don't like when people say that because I feel like it subtracts. But oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
He had it is his worst rating in a grand finals that has been tracked, for what it's worth. So
Well,
he had a 0.69 rating in Manchester. Shaiko did. He was effectively useless by the numbers.
I want to point out something because I get it all the time that Shaiko went missing and that's the only reason why y'all won. Listen, bro, we had a playstyle that suppresses like that particular type of position. We made Bolo have a negative 0.03 rating. Bolo went 0-8 against us. Okay, that was a playstyle thing. All right, like it was our playstyle was a very suppressive playstyle at the time. All right, I don't have to defend myself. Okay, goddamn.
I agree
Anyways,
with that, by the way. I
yeah.
was gonna say I know those the Cora players, the ones that were on that team, do a very good job of usually shutting down the star.
That's what I'm saying. It made it counters the Falcons because they rely on Shaiko to do that kind of stuff, and they shut it down so well.
Yeah,
they make the others beat them.
Yeah. But I think
too often, just very quickly, all too often we dive too much into the negative, aka Shaiko didn't show up, versus the positive, which is Shaiko showed up. It's just he got sat down by better coaching and better strats, right? Like that's how it works. Like
why'd you say better coaching? Thanks, Parker.
Well, no, because it's true. I mean, if the team could have done it themselves, I am obviously giving you a compliment, but it's true. Like if an incredible player keeps running up against the same team and keeps underperforming, we have to stop saying like Shaiko just didn't show up, and instead like we have to look at it objectively and say Shaiko is showing up, but he's not able to pull off what he usually pulls off because he's getting countered. And that's not a negative to Shaiko, because yes, obviously he has to change things, but that's a positive for his opponents. But we just tend to view the negative and, overlook all the rest. So if Shaiko is consistently playing this M80 team, be it Unwanted, be it Beast Coast, be it M80, doesn't matter what org they play under, and he's disappearing, maybe it's not Shaiko disappearing. Maybe it's that the team is built to beat him, and that's it. It's that simple.
Yeah. I think one of the best examples, though, of like the greatness conversation we was talking about is G2 when they won 2023 SI, right? Because I don't want to say anything too acerbic, yes, but Citizen is no doubt an immensely talented player, and he's always positive rated, and he drops massive numbers for his teams, and he's massively impactful in games. That being said, at that time in 2022, there were rumors about his attitude being bad. And that team would always make top 8 internationally. And then they got Fabian as coach, and after one stage, Citizen left to explore options. They got Benjamin Master. Boom, SI champions. Right? Like, it was like, and not to mention, like, that G2 roster, that was when they started, like, twiddling around with the super team, right? Like, that's when they imported Virtue from Australia, like, the best Australian guy. Alamau, after winning the Mexico Major, bring the best Brazilian guy. Like, let's make this fucking super team. Doki, Alamau, Virtue, like, these were fucking superstars, and it just didn't work. And it kept not working. Citizen gone, Benjamin Master up, SI champions. Boom, just like that. It's like instant rocket. So like I said, like Mint said, there's more factors to greatness. Like I don't know what the state of certain players are now, but if you have attitude issues that like simply nerf the rest of your team, I don't think that's greatness, right? But yeah, that's all I had to say.
Well said.
I said very, very quickly, I did say that. I can't remember if it was on 6on6 or if it was on just a Bang On podcast, but I remember at the Mexico Major when, like, I think he was on G2 at the time. It's when Kayak, I think, was still on the team as well. I just remember I was in the green room, which was across from where the teams were playing, and G2 had just lost the map. And Citizen literally was just screaming at all of his teammates, like, you guys are fucking idiots. Like, what moron did this? And I'm just like, man, if I was on that team, I'd either be requesting that I go or he goes. Like, I would not be able to put up with that. And it's like, I like Ben I like Ben quite a lot. I have nothing bad to say about him, but we all know that competition can make people be different beasts. And sometimes the nicest people can get really quite nasty and rude and aggressive if, the team doesn't gel. And actually, I think it goes back to what both Mint and Dream said here, which is great. I've only ever played like any type of competition, sports, esports, etc., like very, very casually or even like semi-professionally at the absolute most. So my experience is very little. But there are just times where it's like you have a line mate or you have a teammate and it just clicks. And it's like you and the other person might be like out of 100, you might be 80s on paper. And you might be matched up against two guys who are 90s on paper and they should eat your lunch, but they're not in sync. They're not on the same page. And sometimes it's just team chemistry, cohesion, morale, attitude. Those things matter a lot more than some people think. And you might have teammates that get on your nerves. Maybe they don't play properly. Maybe they struggle in big moments. And sometimes you look and you're like, hey, this person's amazing at their role, but it's just the team can improve with somebody who's maybe a little statistically worse, but fundamentally a little better in certain ways. So I don't know. I mean, it just goes back to you look at that Falcons roster and it's like, who do you cut? Like they're all amazing at what they do. Like who do you, and if you cut them, who do you replace them with? Who's available right now, right? So it's a tough one. You guys want any more thoughts, or do after an hour and 15 minutes we now start talking about the SI groups?
Woo! SI groups.
SI.
No, I agree with you, Parker. That's why like when and like USA basketball started underperforming internationally, all they really cared about was like every single like camp for like the Olympics is always ego management for a reason. It's never like how much talent you have, it's how much you manage your egos and gel together. But yeah, SI, Six Invitational. It's the SI show.
This is our pre-SI show. We actually tried to get a larger group of people on, but it's just that it's such tough timing. There's a bunch of like smaller leagues that are running and the time zone made it a little challenging. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all 5 of the teams in each of the 4 groups. There's 20 teams that will be competing in Paris in about a couple days, actually. We're recording this show before we leave for Paris. My flight for Paris is actually in a couple days, but we're going to release this ideally on the weekend before SI has actually started. Maybe we'll release it a day or two into the actual event, but we don't have any sponsorship obligations this week. We literally have no ad reads, nothing. We can release it whenever we want. We are the lastest, freest nation at the moment. So let's jump into SI. For those that don't know, the Six Invitational is the biggest event in the calendar year. It is the highest prize pool. It awards the hammer. It is the only world championship in Rainbow Six Siege, and 20 of the best teams across the globe have now qualified. We know every single team that will be there. Group A is the first group that will appear on your screen. What you'll see is taken from R6 Liquipedia. If you don't use R6 Liquipedia, it is a terrific resource. I highly recommend it. So just Google R6 Liquipedia or go to liquipedia.net and then just find the Rainbow Six portal there. It's a great way of finding where the matches are in your respective time zones, stat tracking, etc. It's a handy resource. So we'll start with Group A, and it is a very yellow/green logo group. Everybody except for Heretics. I even think Heretics' little outline is like a dirty gold, so they all have the same color. For people, by the way, who don't know who Team Heretics is, it is a well-known esports org that picked up Project Zero. So Project Zero is not a T1 team. Project Zero are in T2. They played in the Spoy Contender Series. They qualified through the EU LCQs, and Team Heretics came in and picked them up. So Project Zero is no longer an orgless team. They have an org. It's an org that has competed in Counter-Strike, a variety of other esports for a long, long time. Congratulations to Project Zero for that pickup. That is huge. All right. While Fett has gone to the bathroom, we can talk about these 5 teams. And I'll allow you to just jump in here. If there's a particular org that you want to talk about, or there's a particular team or a particular storyline, just dive right in. But from APAC, you've got FearX and Weibo Gaming. You've got M80, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Team Heretics. And if you're wondering how they got there, M80 qualified by winning the Munich Major. Weibo Gaming qualified by winning the APL Finals that took place just a couple months ago. Ninjas in Pajamas qualified via global standings. They were the 11th place team. They were actually the lowest rated team to qualify from global standings. Everybody else either qualified via LCQs or by winning something, be their regional event or the major. Team Heretics, formerly Project Zero, won the EML LCQ. That's how they got there. And FearX finished 6th in the global standings. That's how the Korean team qualified. And if you've never heard of FearX before, Coded, Good Boy, Mephi, Rin, and Woogie Man, you've definitely seen them around as they've rotated through different Korean teams trying to find some stability. So now that everybody is back, is there a particular team here in Group A that you want to talk about?
I mean, I could start off with the team that had high hopes for at the beginning of the year, and then has proceeded to let me down since then. I think that's FearX. I think at Reload they looked pretty decent. They looked like a good team, and then since that event, they have done absolutely nothing.
They're an interesting one, right? They used to be BNK. The core of this team is still like that old Mantis FPS, formerly Cloud9. God, the history behind this team is really crazy. They were known as like Sandbox, then they became like Sandbox BNK or something like that. Now they're like FearX BNK. I don't know. They've gone through quite a tumultuous set of years. What are our expectations here for FearX? Do you think they're going to let you down again? Obviously, we have predictions coming up towards the end, but we can talk about what we think prior to showing those predictions. What do you think of FearX? Do we think that they're going to make a deep run? Do we think that they can surprise us, or do we think these guys are cannon fodder?
Yeah, I think cannon
fodder is a
fodder.
perfect word.
Yeah, sadly, I was really impressed with the shit that they were pulling off at Reload, like Dream said, but I think just as of recent, they just haven't been performing. I think they are by far, on paper at least, from expectations, the worst team in this group. I think I'm upset that M80 didn't get a harder group because I think steel sharpens steel, and I think like going through hell in any sort of game day reps makes your chance at winning the tournament a lot greater. So I really wish they were going against some Titans in this group, but they're not. That's what it is.
Their first match is against Team Heretics, by the way. So I honestly think that will give us a really good idea of where this group will shake up.
I'm really excited for that game too. I think Heretics obviously beating some EU Pro League teams and Team Empire, and then what was that other roster they beat? The one I thought was going to win is like GK. Was their old team.
Twisted
I thought.
Minds.
Mhm.
Twisted Minds.
Twisted
Yeah.
Minds. Yep. I thought they were going to actually win the EU LCQ. But Team Heretics beat out them too, and I thought they were a really talented roster. So I'm excited to see how Heretics kind of stacks up against M80, like arguably the best international team we have right now because they just won the last major, right? So I think it's a good testing ground for Heretics, kind of see where they end up, whatever.
Yeah, they're definitely the wild card in the group. I agree with you guys with FearX. I like to look at like the recent results coming into the tournament to kind of get a good understanding of like again where we're at currently. And yeah, you're going off a Reload where they were a scary team. You guys can call the thing Mickey Mouse format, but they were a scary team during Reload. People actually didn't want to pick them during the bullet phase, but really have fallen off since. Have done absolutely nothing. Didn't even qualify for Munich, so it's like, and then they can't even win their own regional finals. They're losing to another APAC team that's at the event in Elevate. I believe they lost twice during the regionals to Elevate. So, and we'll get to predictions later. We'll see where Elevate's at, but yeah, I don't really have any high expectations. I also feel like they're cannon fodder. Heretics to me is the wild card of the group. I can see them finishing 4th safely, right? Like I feel like they're a better team than FearX, but I also could see them upsetting some teams. I don't think the second place. I would assume we're all probably going to say like M80 for the group. A lot of people calling it the freebie group for M80, like Fett was just saying. But the second place I don't think is really off limits. I do think NIP and Weibo is arguably better, and we can talk about those teams, but I don't know. The Heretics surprised me because again, they were going against some T1 competition in EU, which sure, Virtus Pro hasn't really looked too hot, and they just made 2 changes. But the Twisted Mind team, I agree with Dream. I do think the Twisted Mind team was actually really good, composed of players that have been at SI and have had proven performances at SI. So I do think they're the wild card of the group. We'll have to see how they're playing that first game, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think their their ceiling is like second place of the group.
Yeah, And I think it's like it's not fully free. Like in all reality, like M80, like known slow starters, like every other thing they play, like just really slow starters. So like there's always a chance, in my opinion, that NIP take it over them. NIP is also like I would say like the only other like non on paper sleeper team in this group. Obviously, Weibo has upsetted a lot of teams this year, like just by like straight out eliminating them, right, from events like DZ from EWC. But yeah, NIP, M80, I think are a little bit like if you look at like overall strength over the year, head and shoulders above the rest of the group.
What's our read here on Nip? Because I mean, like Nip was a team that in Munich there were opposing like Brazilian teams saying that Nip is the second best team in the region. Obviously, they weren't. They made it pretty deep. They eliminated a lot of NA teams. But what's our take on Nip here? What's the ceiling for them? Are they a potential sleeper pick to win the entire group? Like, do we think it's a foregone conclusion that M80 is just going to, dog walk these four teams? Like, what are we thinking?
I think they're shakers, bro.
Yeah, that is the sentiment I have heard, is that they do shake a bit. I also have heard though that I'm sure Kyle will say the same thing, but there's Brazilian teams that have like touted them, at least from scrims, as the best Brazilian team. Um, so it's definitely not like a far gone conclusion if you say, "Hey, I think Nip could get first." Like there is a real possibility if they got over like those nerve or that shaking issue.
I think somebody talked about this in Munich. I'd have to find the actual information for it, but basically it was like if fantasy goes negative, Nip just like lose. So unfortunately for them to have, obviously there's more to it than just this, but to have like your success almost hinge on one player's ability to show up, even though obviously fantasy showing up is a little different. It's not exactly great. Like Nip has depth. Like, you've got Cons, you've got Wizard, you've got Hates, like you've got Pino, like you've got depth on this team. Like there's no reason why it should just all fall on the shoulders of one guy. But I don't know. Nip is always a mystery to me. I have a soft spot for the organization, even though I don't really know the players on the team all that well these days. And it's like I'd like them to do well, but I mean, I'm gonna kind of hang my hat on the hook of like this is M80's group to lose, and if they lose, like I don't necessarily know if M80 is going to lose because there are better teams or if M80 just kind of slacks off and doesn't take it that seriously. I will say I think the dark horse of the group is Heretics. I think it's Project Zero. As maybe it's just because I had such a like a close view of them at like the Spoit Contender series and then obviously like their run through the LCQs. I think this is a team that is very deceptively good and is only improving. And I mean, Gruby's really good. There are games where Gruby just dominates. It doesn't matter who he's playing against. He just shreds. And it's like, if with all the LAN experience he has, if he shows up and, clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose kind of deal, like I honestly think that this Team Heretic squad can finish second in the group just behind M80. Maybe that's a hot take.
Not a hot take.
Not
like
even
I said,
a little.
I'm with you. I'm with you with the second place. I'm
Mm-hmm.
with you with the second place. I'm also with Fett though. With like, if M80 does start slow, maybe I got a soft spot the other way for NIP since they made me correct during our last predictions, and I predicted them to at least get top 8, and maybe they farmed NA teams to get there, but they didn't shake against those NA teams. And M80 might be shaken against them. Who knows? Like NIP plays, they're that structured team, and I feel like when you're playing a little structured, especially in groups, you're just playing to your own your own strengths, right? You don't really care what the other team's doing. You're just playing your own strengths. And when I analyze their map pool, they actually have a lot of green maps, meaning like over 70% win percentage for the entire year. They have a very strong map pool, and if they are willing to use that map pool to their advantage when people don't really know all the ins and outs, because again, we haven't seen them play in like over 2-3 months, then it could be really good for them. The also unknown and the big unknown for SI and a big talking point for the tournament is where's Fortress in everyone's map pool now that Skyscraper is out, and we can go through the entire tournament and see where Skyscraper was in the top 3 for a lot of these teams. M80 used it to kind of farm their way up there. Falcons, another team that kind of used Skyscraper to farm their way up. Like these teams are now no longer have Skyscraper, and then the teams that were permabanning Sky Again, it's like, where does Fortress fit in the map ban pool? Everyone, at least to my knowledge, I've had some discussion with some of the coaches kind of going there. It seems like it's almost going to be like chicken. Like, no one knows who's going to ban it. We don't have any data on anybody, so everyone is just going to be like, we're not going to ban it. You're never going to know how good we are at it until after group phase. And then after group phase 2, it could also be a weapon. Maybe you banned it all group phase just to hide it for the playoffs, knowing that really groups is just don't finish in 5th place. That's it. Like 5th and 4th. Like, you want to finish top 3. That's really all that matters. And it's like, if you can get away with just go ahead and ban Fortress, and now you really don't know for the playoffs, like, Fortress is going to be a weapon. So the map ban phases are going to be very interesting to pay attention to. And a team like NIP, I feel like so far we've watched Fortress, and it's been pretty default kind of like clears at the moment. And it seems like a map that would be pretty good for them as well. So if that's another good map for their map pool, they could be pretty deadly if they get over the whole shaking thing, if that is kind of their problem.
Anything that might surprise us? I feel like out of all the groups, this is the one that will probably get the least chatter, which is great that it's Group A, just to get out of the way. I mean, the thing is like, if you take a step back and you look, you've got 2 APAC teams historically don't really have a great track record of success, even though Weibo does usually end up performing the best out of all of them. And then you've got Team Heretics, which is what was an orgless T2 EULCQ heroic run, and you could step back and be like, well, 3 of these teams are kind of dog ass, like, that's the group. I don't think that's a correct read of it, but I do think this might be, in my eyes, the hardest group to read, just because there's so many things that you don't know. Like, who knows? Maybe FearX gets an excellent start in their match against Heretics, wins that game. Maybe they win their APAC game, and now you've got Heretics and Weibo both losing to FearX, and suddenly FearX isn't the first team to go home. Now it's a dogfight, and M80 or NIP have some stumbles early, and suddenly, the teams that you thought would lead the way and carry the torch for this group are now in danger of going home. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, surprising would be M80 getting grouped, and that would make me very sad and crash out, but that's the only
I
thing.
think that would be a catastrophic implosion. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think, just bringing up or talking more on your point, Fett, you brought up earlier that steel sharpens steel. To be the little bit of a devil's advocate, do you think it's really going to hurt M80, like having like an easier group? Because I know their Munich run
Yes.
started off with them playing 3 like Titans, basically. They played like 3 really, really good teams. And then now they're maybe starting with some middle of pack teams like NIP. Like, that's kind of where they're starting.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that hurts them going into like the playoffs or like the second stage 2, whatever. And then they have to play a good team. Are they ready? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember jumping up and down with joy when we got our bracket in Manchester, because it was the harder side of the bracket. Because I remember, like, my theory in my head was the team on the hardest side of the bracket always wins. Like, so like I think, yeah, I would like them to play harder teams. Even if they don't play harder teams, I would like them to get a loss in. I think lose maxing is a thing. Like, I think it just,
Yep.
you learn so much from fucking losing. And obviously there's teams that can go flawless in a tournament, and like, applause to those teams, but I mean, I think it's just more consistent than not than you see a team like come from the losers bracket, and that's the team that looks better on the grand finals day. So
Yeah, there's a reason they say that loser bracket is a buff, right? So
yeah.
Well, you can argue then that it would be good for them. They all they got to do is finish top 3. Very
Yeah, true.
reasonable. Get
Yep.
to the upper bracket. And then again, everything's best of 3, so it's not like they're playing just best of 1s to get out of group. Like, they're still playing a ton of maps.
Yep.
And then even if they lose in the upper bracket to like a secret, boom, they're in the lower. And they can make that run happen. And we've seen that even in the documentary that just dropped recently with the M80, where it was like, good. We're glad we lost a phase. We woke up now.
They filmed that documentary at 3 a.m. in the hotel lobby. I don't know if they said that because I didn't get around to watching the entire documentary, but we went to the after party after everything wrapped. We got to the after party quite late because obviously it was a relatively late day. We get to the after party. It's a bit of a snooze fest. I ate some pretty good pizza. I had like 2 Coronas and I was like, all right, it's time to go home. We get back to the hotel at like 2:33 in the morning, and just like all of M80 is just sitting there doing a documentary, and we're like, what the hell are you guys doing? And they're like, well, our flight's in like 2 hours, so we might as well just do this. I was like, damn. Grind never stops. Good to see it though. If you haven't watched the M80 documentary, by the way, you should. Anything more to add about Group A, or do we want to just shuffle along to Group B?
Group B.
Group B
go
it
Group
is.
B.
All right. Group B, some interesting teams. You got Team Falcons coming in by way of qualifying through the EU, obviously the grand finals, winning their respective region. Then you've got Furia, the team that's won just about everything, might be blowing up after this SI. That's what the rumors seem to suggest. Elevate from APAC. You've got Wildcard from North America, and then Daystar, who made it in by beating was it All Gamers, the Chinese team, in the grand finals. Fett, you were very upset about that one.
Yes. God damn it.
Daystar qualifying. What team do you want to start with here? Do we start with Falcons because that's been kind of the point of this whole episode? Should we start with Falcons? Probably. All right, let me pose you the question. Furia's in this group. Should Falcons win the group? Is there any jeopardy that they don't win?
No, I think they're always very good. I think Furia always troll early in tournaments, so yeah. Falcons is better early starter for show than Furia. Like for me, like, and I'll reiterate this, like, when we do predictions again, like, people always like to look at predictions and be like, I can't believe you think this team is better than this team. That's not the case at all. Like, groups is typically who does well in groups. Like, there are teams that are very good at group stages, and there's teams that are not good at group stages, and there's teams that good at both. It's just team to team dependent. Like, Furia, that roster just historically, like, trolls a game, like, always, and then they fucking power up after that. Like, it's just Falcons always seem to do pretty consistently well in the beginning of tournaments. Like, yeah, so it's just, I don't know. That's how I see it. Me personally. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think that's a great point too. It's like when we're making these predictions that it's not who's just better. Like that's not what it is at all. And sometimes things are so matchup based because like I know Fett made a video on this too, like the rock paper scissors of siege, right? Like sometimes things are so matchup based and teams are good at some maps, they're not good at some maps, and they're gonna have to play a map that they're not that good at, and the other team's gonna win a map. Like it's just there's so many factors that go into it besides just who's actually better. For the groups, I mean, yeah, I think for me, it's like you said, Parker, with M80. I think it's the Falcons group to lose. I think Furia usually have a slow start, but that's not a big deal because I think to them, it's not really like it's kind of like what we talked about, like winning regionally in NA. Like I don't think it's a big deal to them. You just want to make it again. You want to make it top 3 without showing as much as possible, and then playoffs start. Like that's where the tournament starts. So I think that's kind of their theory as well. I don't think they care. I don't want to say they don't care. That's not the right word, but like they're not putting maybe their best foot forward. Maybe they'll play these APAC teams where they think they should be able to beat them, and we've seen them lose. Maybe if you take a look at their map pool, they're not actually playing sometimes their strongest maps. G2 used to have that theory as well, where they would go to some weaker maps versus APAC team. Like you could play on your worst map, you'd still beat them, kind of thing. Because again, it's groups. You're gonna you're gonna make it out when you're looking at your group in a team like Furia. Like if you have to, you're gonna make it out. But I do have Furia. I do think they're going to lose a game to either a wild card, Elevate, or Daystar. I do think they're going to lose one. I do think that's going to make them fall a little bit further into the group, so I don't think they'll finish there. And then Falcons, yeah, I think they're the kind of the runaway favorite. And then, of course, you got 2 APAC teams with Elevate and Daystar. The weird thing is with like Elevate, where do they finish in the global standings? So they finished, tied for 8th in the global standings, Elevate. And this is like, it's just kind of weird to me because we didn't see them at any international event since Reload. And like that is that import team, Elevate, right? So when we're talking about this team, we're talking about technically a Brazilian roster. That's if I remember who correctly is on that team, it's like it's a Shaiko's team with Shaiko, Ions, who used to be on FaZe a long time ago. Raps, I believe, was MIBR. Resets was on Liquid, and I'm a Resets fan. Because I watch a lot of Liquid and I liked Resets, so I do think there's a lot of potential here. But they're technically a lower ranked Brazilian team more than an APAC team, and we haven't seen them internationally the entire year. So it's like, how do they get 8th in points? I don't know. That's the question for me that hopefully we'll fix when we get the grand plan for the next year during however they do the format for next year. But yeah, Elevate Daystar probably in the running for getting grouped in this event in this group.
I mean, I want to say, I want to say that Wildcard will surprise us one way or another. Either I think they're going to finish second in this group and look like world beaters, or they're going to just blow up and we're going to be kind of scratching our heads and be like, is this finally the regression that a lot of people have been thinking is going to come for Wildcard? Now, I don't think there's any real numbers or anything kind of driving this. I think a lot of people just look at the sum of Wildcard's parts and they're like, how is this team consistently finishing top 4 at live events? But it's like, I think Wildcard are steadily improving. Dream, you played against them. You'll have obviously a better vantage point here to talk about this Wildcard team, and you can give us your thoughts on them. But like, I think Falcons and Fury are like, if there's a team that wins this group beyond either of them, I'll be very surprised. I think obviously these two are, you've got Fury, who very obviously have taken a step back. You're going to have to shut out all the noise, which they've done before. If the rumors that we've heard are to be true, and basically this entire team minus Herds is going over to Team Liquid, then, who knows how they're going to approach this event. Maybe they'll feel rejuvenated and they'll be playing freely. Maybe there'll be some bitterness. I don't really know what the vibes are in the team. These guys are professionals. Like, you got to be able to shut that noise out. Falcons, unfortunately, will be playing with a lot of pressure on their shoulders. And I feel like when the team has those expectations on their shoulders, they struggle. Some of the players in particular struggle. I don't rate Daystar very high. I don't rate Elevate very high. And that just leaves me with Wildcard. I think Wildcard are a good team. I do kind of want to pass the mic over to Dream to hear his thoughts on them, because Wildcard have been one of the most surprising stories, I feel like, over the last 12 months of Siege. I think a lot of the guys are quite nice. I like that they're doing well, even though, you look at the lineup and it kind of confounds you a little bit, but they perform in international events. You can't take that away from them. So,
yeah, I think at every international event that they've gone to this year, they've placed quite highly and done really well. And
yeah.
I genuinely chalk that up to, I think they have a good coaching staff in Lagonis. I think he's done a really good job with the team. I think just overall how they work together and how they play off each other in the server is exceptional. I think they play really well off of each other. And I mean, I could speak for myself, but I'm sure every NA team has a story from Wildcard and Scrims where they've just gone absolutely nuke and they've 11-1'd you or 10-2'd or whatever. Like, they just go absolutely dominant on a map. So I know they had the potential to be a really good team. And I'm actually really happy and proud for the guys. This year, they've actually brought that to the field, and they've shown that internationally. So it is really cool for the Wildcard guys to be doing good. And I mean, there's even a world where I could see them getting first place, and I don't think I'd be super surprised, to be honest. I could see them even taking a series off the Falcons. I do have them personally finishing second in this group. I do think Furia kind of has that slow start, and the other two teams are going to be fighting to not get eliminated. But yeah, I could definitely see Wildcard coming out strong and putting up some numbers.
Yeah, I'm with you guys too on the Wildcard thing. We were talking before about teams that are built to compete regionally. Some are built to compete internationally. They struggle regionally, right? We all know Wildcard kind of struggles to make the event, to get past some of these regional teams, but they definitely have what it takes to perform internationally. And if they do it again at this event, it could be it's great, but it could be a scary thing, because depending on if Wildcard, I don't know what their contracts look like. I know there's some vulture orgs out there that might have their eye on a few of those players because they have been performing internationally. Again, you got Lagonis, a great performing coach. Spiker, in my opinion, I think he's right below Hot and Cold and Troy as far as IGL right there. He's up and coming next, right? He's proven right now internationally. I like the things that he says in interviews too. He knows the game really, really well. I know Bay is a prospect right now that is high on a ton of people's lists, right? If people make some roster changes, SR struggles regionally or internationally again, they make some roster changes. Maybe Bay is up there as far as a player that potentially gets poached. So it's they're an interesting roster. I also do think that I think they could be very competitive regionally if they made one roster change, and that could also happen because after SI, there's going to be a ton of changes. But I also have them I also have them second place in this because I think they perform so good internationally, and they're not playing against any NA teams. That's what they struggle with. There's no NA teams here. 2 APAC teams. I think Wildcard's going to farm.
Yeah.
Wildcard is the first day off, and then they play Daystar. So I mean, pretty easy first 2 days for them to get a little extra practice in, and then they settle in. They have Elevate in the fourth match, I guess technically their third match. I think when you talk about strength of schedule, not to cut you off, Fett, I think having what was probably widely seen as the weakest team as your first opponent is quite nice, and then you have another one of the weaker teams after Falcons can give you a bit of a reprieve, because it's like, imagine if you just front loaded the two hardest teams first and you lose, it can be tough for a team to mentally come back from that. So if you're looking at wild card, they play up against Daystar, and then they go up against Falcons. If they upset Falcons, you're up 2-0 knowing you've got Elevate next. You could very easily put a nice little bow on the groups, and who gives a shit what happens with Fury on your final day.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really glad you guys are highlighting Lagonis. I think he really is the MVP, or like honest to God, like this is the first time I've been like, yeah, that is the superstar of the team. It's Lagonis. Like he clearly pushed that team above and beyond his timeouts. Like I'm super glad we got the timeouts at Munich, because his timeouts sound super composed, super solution oriented, and it seemed to push that team in the complete right direction. So I think if there's anyone that pushes that team over, above and beyond, it will be Lagonis, and hopefully we hear the timeouts again, because I think it'll be clear on whether or not they're pushing it past. But I think it'd be very interesting. I think if they get like Kansan poached from them, I think that team is GG.
I think Kansan Bay are probably the two great shooters
for
on
sure.
that team, right? And then you have Spiker as like the crazy IGL. You got Baby Shark is like that T2 rookie coming in and Dash to like round everything out.
Yeah.
And the other thing with Spiker too is we talk about how importantly the IGL can frag, and if you go look at their stats, like Spiker's up there with even better than Hot and Cold in the stat department.
Mm-hmm.
So
Spiker often does it last alive too. Like I think there's a clutch factor in Spiker that we don't talk about often because of his role. Obviously, he's going to be one of the last guys alive through most rounds. And there are times where it's like he's in a 1v1 or a 1v2 in the final moments, and he wins, and he does it pretty consistently. And I mean, Dream, you've obviously been in that position before where you've been able to clutch out. So you know a thing or two about that. But it's like, I imagine you're probably the wrong guy to ask because you're the guy clutching. But like, I have to imagine from a non-player perspective that if your like supporter IGL is always last alive and they just couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat because that's not the kind of player they are, I feel like that's kind of confidence shattering. But when you've got a guy like, like Brede, you've got a guy, like Dream, like Spiker, who's fragging when they're last alive, I feel like that can imbue a team with a lot of confidence and kind of screw your head on right for the next round, knowing that you've got somebody who can rise to that occasion and give you a fighting chance, even if circumstances look pretty bad. So I'm also looking at the ratings for Munich, by the way. Kansan was the highest rated player on Wildcard. Spiker was second highest rated.
Wow.
At Munich.
Mikey Lukens.
Yeah.
No, it's impressive, and it's again, I think it's a thing that teams are looking to go towards more and more in Siege, right? That was a big reason I was there. It's a big reason DZ made the change, and whether it hurt him or not, argument for another day. But it's a direction people are going where you don't really have the luxury of like just because you're playing IGL, you're going to go 0-20 and you're going to go negative 80 in an event. Like you got to be able to you got to take the weight off of people's shoulders sometimes. Like entry fraggers are getting shit on. Like you got to be able to get some kills and help out. So yeah, definitely something to look for.
Anything more to add on Group B? I think we've talked pretty in depth about some of these teams. As for scheduling, Daystar and Elevate do battle very first match of Group B. That could be a particularly gruesome affair. That means that Falcons and Furia play each other on the first day as well. That is a terrific match right off the rip. So you not obviously that you can gain too much from a single best of three, but I feel like that will give us a pretty good window as to whether or not we get the usual Furia who struggles and then has to make that deep gauntlet run, or if they've kind of screwed their heads on straight. And then the other question would be if pressure's getting to the Falcons or not, because again, you got to shut out the noise. Both of these teams will. Falcons are going to have a lot of expectations to bring the banner home on French soil for, a majority French roster. So
This might be a little scary too, but I think that Daystar Elevate game kind of tells me who's going home in that group, and that's pretty scary for that to be your very first game. It's like, hey, this is our must win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hate watching, even though I think Elevate's better than Daystar. I'm hate watching, bro.
It is even scarier for Daystar because their schedule is never really easy, but they've got Elevate wildcard, then they have the day off. They round out their group stage with Furia on 4th day and then Falcons on 5th day.
If you need points, that's rough.
Yeah, like if Daystar is fighting to live, they're going to be going up against Furia and Falcons back to back in the 2 final matches of the groups. Like that's like worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me shades of, for the people who watch the NA League, it gives me envy shades where they beat all the bad teams at the beginning and then started playing better teams, then just, fell apart. So photo time.
You don't want to play Furia last in the group. Like that's when they're going to be heated up.
Kim's in.
Anything more about Group B? We'll be talking, for those that are watching right now that think we might be going through this, we will be talking a little bit more about these when we run our predictions at the end. So we'll be bringing up everybody's predictions because we've done them all. And obviously, Mint and Fett have already done videos on it, by the way. Mint, you got to thank the R6 Pro League people. I got to give some credit here. The R6 Pro League subreddit does not get the activity nor the love that it deserves. We have by no means been telling people to do this, but our content has started getting pushed on the subreddit, whether it be your individual video or the DBNO video. Like they shared the 6-on-6 stuff. Like, I think it's great. And if you're watching here and you use Reddit, I know Reddit can be a scary place, and I know that there is no more devastating an insult than the words average Redditor. But if you like Rainbow Six Pro League and you go on Reddit, I strongly encourage you to go to the R6 Pro League subreddit and subscribe and get active and comment. It helps our scene out, and ultimately the more people there, the better it is. So if you're watching this and you haven't watched either Fett or Mint's individual content involving their predictions, you absolutely should. It's good stuff. I watched Mint's and I paid him a nice little compliment after I watched it. So, all right, moving on to Group C. Black Dragons effectively retiring Nesk sits atop Group C. Black Dragons made it through the Brazil LCQs, aka the SAL, the South America League LCQs. D+ qualifying through the standings. FaZe Clan, their FaZe Clan, they don't need any introduction. G2 are G2, they don't need any introduction either. And then Shopify Rebellion, same thing there. This is a tough group. I will say this. I think this might be the toughest group to predict out of the 4 because I feel like there's a couple things at play. Number 1, FaZe Clan's FaZe Clan. Number 2, sometimes G2 just doesn't show up for events. Same with Shopify Rebellion. Black Dragons should be one of the 2 teams that are, earmarked to go home just because of their, their strength as players and as a team. But then you've got all these other factors, and you might end up with 3 teams all fighting for those plane tickets to go home. And then you've got D+ just kind of sitting in there, just waiting. What do you think the storyline for this group will be, Dream? I'm starting with you.
Storyline for this group, well, I'm gonna go with a reigning SI champs take number 1. Definitely in FaZe. I think they're gonna clear it out. I think SR honestly has a lot to prove in this group. I think obviously their year-to-date success hasn't been that high. Internationally, they did not look good. I think that this group, they really need to pick up the pace, start showing out a little bit, like they're a super team. Got to start acting like one. You know what I mean? I probably have them finishing around 3rd or 4th just because they haven't proved anything to me yet. And then I have G2 rounding out that 2nd spot, me personally. I believe in the Stomp and Train. I think he's going to go Nuke. I think he's taking number 2. And then I can't see a world that D+ doesn't get eliminated here.
think you guys are not brain rotted enough because the storyline of this group versus me is Sploit versus Stompin. Hey, see, I see the, I see
There it
the,
is.
I see the
There it
moment.
is.
There it is.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Woo!
Ooh, generational payday day one, and then I'm broke for the rest of the tournament.
Are you saying they're not going to match up later?
Oh, I hope they match up later because that's double generational payday, baby. Need as much of the S name versus the S name. Need Sploit, Shaiko, stop. I need as many of those as I can get, bro. Holy shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think like you said, I think it's a bit more clear cut for me. I think I don't think I think like Brazil outside that top three just aren't necessarily on form. Like I literally just never expect that like Liquid, Loud, BD, like stacked to like that trio to like really do anything. Sadly, I think their weaknesses are just way too big. I think SR's form in like this year, and I hope they prove me wrong because again, like they're so talented, and I think for a period of time they like people thought of them as the best of NA. Um, I think G2 and FaZe are the clear head and shoulders above everyone else. That being said, for me, the way I analyze this group is that just I think FaZe, again, kind of like Furia, just are in love with trolling like a game or two at the beginning of tournaments where they can. And G2, I think their playstyle is so good for the beginning of tournaments. Like, I'll break this down in my predictions later, but I think G2's playstyle, like, it doesn't necessarily say who I think is going to make a deeper run, but I think G2's playstyle in particular is very, very good for group stages. And they showed even when like they were that problem riddled team back at SI25, they were like shit for the whole year, and then they got like what first place in that group, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because although in my predictions, which we can talk about later, I go opposite of what I'm about to say, which is you're correct in that G2 for the last 2 years at SI usually easily win groups. FaZe, they troll a game. The both last SIs, again, they're dominant. They won 2025, 2024, but they usually finish second in groups. So it's probably a G2 phase, although I'm flipping it. I'm going with Dream and I'm flipping it. I'm thinking this year's different. But that is probably happening. So I mean, I think you're absolutely right. D plus, they're just another imported team, by the way, from APAC. It's just not really that competitive. I look at Munich. Sure, they beat Furia 8-7 on Bank. Don't think that should have been like they should not have played Bank. If you look at D plus's map pool, I don't think they should have played Bank. And then just not competitive at all. 2-7 to the Falcons, 2-7 to FaZe. G2 blows them out. I think this team is most likely getting grouped, unless. And I'll go with Dream again with the storyline of like Shopify. If Shopify, people are talking this is the group of death, and Shopify is probably the likely story, the likely team to get grouped. Like if there's an NA team that gets grouped, people are looking at maybe Shopify. D plus starts performing all of a sudden. Black Dragons LCQ team, Brazilian, I guess they're good. I don't see it either. I'm with that on that. With like, I don't see Black Dragons either because if I'm looking at their LCQ performances, they played Loud, who were struggling all year. As I hate to say it, Liquid, who couldn't find their footing all year as well. I'm not impressed with that roster either, and I got a lot of copium for the SR boys. I've talked about how good I think that roster is, but something internationally hasn't clicked for them. But Troy Canadian is not getting grouped. It's not happening. He ain't letting that shit happen. We need to see Sploit and Stompin' again in the playoffs. We need Fett to get a second payday. So SR, they're going to be fine. Probably finish in that third region. And then, yeah, we're just debating here who's basically going to get grouped and who's going to win the tournament or who's going to win the at the top of it. But I don't know. I don't see this as the group of death. Do you guys see this as the group of death? Because I actually don't.
I mean, to me, the group of death is the group with the best teams in it. I think the good teams are really quite well spaced out. I mean, I don't know. I think honestly, like two of the best teams at the tournament are both in Group B, which is Furia and Team Falcons. The thing for me is like you touched on it yourself, and it is also kind of backs up something Fett said. G2 is like this enigma that either does really, really well in groups and then just kind of coasts before going home, or they just get blown up and have a terrible run. And the same thing is to be said about Shopify Rebellion. If all of these teams play at their potential and actually play like good Siege and they all show up, then yeah, this is the group of death just by the sheer good teams that are in it. But I don't know. I'm with you. Like I look at G2 and I look at Shopify Rebellion and it's just like, imagine they put a gun to your head and they're like, is G2 going to do well? I'm probably dying. Like, I don't know. Like, you know, like I don't know if they're like, gamble your whole life and everything you have on Shopify Rebellion. I'm just taking the bullet at that point. Like I'm not like, you know, like I have no idea. I'm with you on that. Like I honestly think, with the exception of FaZe Clan, and this might be a bit of a hot take, with the exception of FaZe Clan, I think any of the other 4 teams in this group can go home. I think it's perfectly possible. I think G2 can go home. I think Shopify Rebellion can go home. Like I don't think it's likely, but we always have one big surprise in the groups, right? Like there's always one. I think this might be the group that it comes from.
Yeah. And if we're done talking about this group, I would like to do a segue here. Permission?
I don't think we're anywhere near done. I think we're still
not?
like we.
Shit, I'm terrible at this. I keep doing this every episode. I keep thinking we're done with topics, bro. And oh my god. No, I think in terms of, and David, producer David, put a really nice message in chat. Group of death, eliminated team that from their group will get out of other groups easily. I don't think that's a thing in Siege SI, sadly, because there's an APAC team in every group and only one team eliminated per group. So sadly, I just don't think that's a thing in Siege. There's 2 ways to look at it for me, where it's like, do I think the peak of the teams in this group is higher than like the other groups on average? Yeah, but do I think like it's really hard to tell which way everything can go? No. Like I think, and we'll get to this later, I guess, but I think Group D is that group where like I have no idea realistically how that group can potentially go. So for me, it's like for C, at least the rankings are clear in my head. Do I think it's like it has some of the strongest teams in the tournament? Oh hell yeah. Oh hell yeah. But I could more easily tell what's going to happen in Group C than Group D, in my opinion.
To basically bring up what Dream said about Group B, D Plus and Black Dragons play each other very first match around 1. So again, this could be the 2 teams that one of them is going to go home. So we just kind of look at it and it's a good idea of how they feel. FaZe Clan is the first day off and then plays the rest of the way. And I mean, they've got a middling schedule. They play D Plus, or they play Black Dragons first, and they play D Plus Kia round 4. So again, it's like bad team, good team, bad team, good team. But again, I don't know. I'm usually quite poor at predictions. I'm not very good. I'm typically the guy who's just like, well, this team is better, so they should win. And I don't really think too much deeper than that. And that doesn't always work. I'm not as good of a ball knower as some of you guys. So, I mean, hey, if we want to call that discussion, we can, and we can move on to Group D because you had a segue, unless there's anything else that you guys wanted to add.
Just one small talking point that I wanted to add for Group C, since I brought up map, the nitty gritty of Siege, what excites me. Here comes like my old person self, the boomer mint self, but like Fortress is very, very interesting looking at Group A, B, C, and D. But the story for Group C for me is Lair. Lair is going to be a goddamn interesting map because they have the best team at Lair in each region. We have Shopify Rebellion, who statistically is actually the best Lair team technically in the world. And there's a lot of people that think that Lair NA owns Lair. And Shopify is actually 8-1 on that map for the entire year, having only lost Lair once. Then you got G2, who in my opinion is the best EU team at Lair, and they love that map. It's very preferred in their map pool at 10-3. So, and we've actually seen them play each other during Esports World Cup, I believe, where G2 lost 5-7. So very, very, very close matchup. And then there's FaZe Clan, who, of course, representing for the Brazilians. They played that map the most at 14 times and 10-4 on that map. So I think we're going to see a ton of Lair coming out of Group C, which I expect very, very like high level siege. I know rank community hates Lair. I don't know why people are still banning that map. It plays pretty much exactly to fucking Clubhouse. It's just the default shit over and over and over again. But I love watching Lair. I love like the strategic depth on it is still getting there, especially on like some of the basement bomb sites. That I think we're starting to see some newer stuff and some ISO plays and things like that. But yeah, I expect we're going to see some very, very high level siege on those. So and we'll also have to see, maybe people are scared. Might be seeing some of them ban it, especially if they think they have an advantage in some other maps, specifically Fortress, if they want to kind of test their luck on that map early. And then you got the other regions. Black Dragons and D+, I don't really think like Lair, and I wasn't going to really touch on APAC. D+, no, and Black Dragons, heck no. So they'll get abused on those maps.
So maybe this is a
go ahead.
hot take, but I think Lair kind of plays similar to Fortress. So I wonder if we'll see these like really, really good Lair teams like pulling out Fortress as well in the groups. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and seeing how like well they can play on it as well. Especially if they're like all considered like the best in their region on Lair. I wonder if we'll see
Yeah.
Fortress too.
I am excited to see Fortress in professional capacity because I have not seen it. I have not casted it. So
Ooh, you haven't casted it yet.
no.
Do you know the callouts?
I know a lot of them. I've been going out of my way to play it as much as possible.
Mhm.
Obviously, like the callouts that are in game are not always the ones that we're going to use on a broadcast. And as far as I can tell, the other broadcast team, like the other casters, have put a document in like our SI group with like universal callouts if we all just want to get on the same page about them, which I always think is actually quite good. I know that there was a long time ago that Kix had talked about this, and Pengu wanted to do it as well, and then I think Dezichu wanted to do it at one point. We're getting like universal callouts. Obviously, that's like in a perfect world that would be great, but every region's going to call stuff differently. And then there's some casters that like forego callouts for like the flourish of their vocab and wordplay and whatever. But don't need to get into too much of it. But I approach it from the perspective of I just want to be able to say stuff that people know. I don't want to be making goofy callouts that are technically correct, but like nobody calls it that. So for Fortress, I'm probably just gonna. Jesse and I actually don't cast the first day, so if there's a Fortress that first day, I'm just gonna spend the entire time listening and just try to lift as many of those calls as possible so that I'm on the same page with the other talent. But playing it has made it quite easy, and it's not a very particularly hard map to learn, to be honest. It was way harder to learn Lair. Like way harder. So yeah.
I think Fortress plays more like Chalet for me personally, just because I think the map's clearly cut in half and there's two sides and there's
Mhm.
very prominent cuts. But I agree with Dream on one thing, is that I think the entries flow more like Lair. Like it's not as
Yeah.
easy to entry into the map as it is Chalet. Like you can't just bum rush shit. Like at least it doesn't seem optimal to like cheese anything right now. It seems a little bit difficult actually to get fast entries in. So
All right. Well, I mean, you had the segue into Group D. Do you want to revisit it?
well, I mean, the group that I actually do think is the most competitive is Group D, and I think I see Mint like visually agreeing with me. Is that correct, Mint? Yeah, I don't like. I just think it could go any fucking way. Like I think SSG is really strong. I think SSG, honest to God, are my dark horse for the entire tournament. Because they recently showed a lot of strength at the NA finals, and I know that like sounds stupid, and I know people rate them very low, but I just always thought SSG was the team that people describe SR as, is this individually stacked team that can't seem to get it together. I think SSG is more individually stacked. That's my hot take than SR. I've said this a million times. It's an old fat take at this point. W7M also like can't count them out. And then OXG like is a team that like didn't do that well over the course of the year, like in terms of like making events.
They
Did
made
make it?
EWC.
No, they
and
made
then
EWC.
They didn't make the major.
They didn't make no. So, but like they don't do that crazy over the course of a year. But I feel like they always power up at SI, like no matter what. And they had a like a pretty good run at Boston, like comparative to what their expectations were. And I think it's probably the same thing here. Again, like just heartbreaker stage leading into the Munich major, and they just didn't make it. And I think they're gonna get back here. Yeah, and this group, I just don't know which way it goes. Secret, I think it's a team that's a little bit falling off. I think not because of the fact that they're not a strong team, but because of behind the scenes stuff, in my opinion, from what I can see from the outside. Because like that team, let's be honest, like I think they're still like EWC champ form. I think that's really impressive of them because they were M80's by far, I think, most close matchup at Munich, right? Like and that's the champion of the whole event. Like I think whoever won between Secret and M80 might have actually won the whole thing, unless Falcon just flat out counter Secret. I don't fucking know too much like about like what would happen in that matchup, but I think like Secret looked insane. But I say this over and over. I don't know why. I see Savage yelling at his team more and more and more. And I think that's actually a crucial factor, maybe. And I do sense a little bit of distrust building within that team. And I wouldn't be surprised to see roster changes happening with that team after this event, especially if they bomb out. So yeah, I think it's just overall those 4 teams within this group. I'm sorry, Enterprise fans. I'm sorry. I just kind of skipped over your team. Out of all the APAC teams, I would root for Enterprise over like D plus and Elevate, but I think those 4 can honestly go either way. Like honestly, God.
I'd love to step in and actually hype up the Enterprise boys real quick. I want to
Okay.
hype up the Aussies listening on the DBNO podcast. Give a little hopium for the Aussie crowd, and for oh my God, what's the caster's name that I can't think of?
Guz, Xenox, Dev Marta.
Sure, one of them. We're gonna hype up the Aussies. All right. my bad.
Holy
my bad.
Shit.
One of them.
Yeah, sure, one of them.
All
What
of
the
them.
fuck?
All of them. All of them.
One of them.
All of them. Look, first off, Coach Mingaron, King Ming, as they call him, from the APAC region. I got that guy's jersey, so I'm totally not biased here when I say this. But that's the vibe guy. If you guys have seen the clips, he's the guy, the cute coach standing behind the team, just vibing him up with the sunglasses. Like, that's Ming. Anyway, moving on to the actual roster. Tuhan has been a player that's been very impressive for Enterprise, was a top 5 player at Munich, actually. He dropped a 20 bomb on Furia in a very important match. And the main thing I want to say with Enterprise is like, okay, did I predict them to get grouped? Yes. But
Kind of
I do think it does, but hang on. I do think they're going to be very competitive because again, I'm looking at recent form of when what a team's doing coming into this event, and when I see them and I look at the results, as my page doesn't want to load here, but when I see them play against some of the international teams that APAC teams are normally getting farmed by 2-7, right? We looked at D plus getting 2-7, 2-7, 0-2, not even close. But when we look at Enterprise, they're actually competitive. Like we look back at that Munich major and nothing wants to load for me, but let me scroll down real quick. They did get 14th, but they were able to beat Weibo. And I don't know where you guys have Weibo in your standings, but many people think Weibo's like a top 8 probably team, right? Where you could reasonably see them beating, especially NA teams. Fett touched on it with the DZ. I think they've been very close, if not beaten Shopify as well. But they're usually in the conversation to beating, like as an APAC team, beating other teams. So Enterprise being able to beat Weibo, who were many are touting the kings of APAC, and then losing to some very good teams at Munich. 5-7 to W7M. That's Paulu, right? Paulu at his peak. So 5-7 against W7M is impressive. 5-7 against Wildcard, who was a top 4 team internationally and was heating up that event. You could say whatever you want about Wildcard, but they showed up that event. They were scary, and they lost 5-7, and then they lost 1-2 to Furia. Yes, they took a map off Furia, and that's the game where Tuhan dropped a 20 bomb to win the map. So they're actually competitive, and it was on Bank too, which is, I don't know why Fury keeps going Bank, but they're actually very competitive against actual good teams at these events for an APAC team. So I have a lot of hope for them in combination with some of their group that we've touched on. Space Station, their only good performance internationally all year was when they played NA teams. Yes, they finished top 4 at EWC, but go look who they beat. They beat Falcons, sure, but then it was all NA. Any other time they won against a team internationally, it was against NA. They don't beat anyone internationally. So if Space Station comes in here and struggles again, I could see a world where Enterprise beats them and Space Station continues to struggle. And I believe they play first match too, which is going to be pretty exciting to watch.
They are first match, yep.
And then there's Oxygen, who another team I would like to hype up, but just for the sake of argument here, I'm going to keep going with the Aussies. Oxygen, the LCQ team in NA, and Enterprise performing pretty good against these kinds of teams, right? Even getting a map off Furia. Sure, Oxygen got a map off Furia too, but everyone's just farming Fury. What's going on? What is going on?
Chronic trolls, bro. I keep telling you, they love sandbagging, like genuinely. They fucking love it. They're obsessed with it.
Yeah, but low Kirkwoodly, I really
not this really shit again. No.
My bad. I really do I really do think there's a world where they don't get grouped. I really do think, and I picked them to be safe on the safe side because I picked some hot takes too, which we'll maybe talk about. But I really think there's a world where SSG or Oxygen could get grouped here. I played out the formulas. I've went through the map ban phase. As long as Enterprise doesn't troll their maps, which I do think they've been trolling. They play Fury on Border. Everyone should know by now. Fury is 22-0 in Border and hasn't lost Border since I believe I have it marked as the last time they lost on Border was 2022, September 24th, and it was a 7-8. That's the last time they lost Border. Enterprise keeps picking Border. Stop it. You're not going to be the team that beats them there. Stop it. Stop trolling your ban phase. Hopefully Fortress helps them again, which is why I'm saying Fortress could be the map. That could be a map Fury is terrible at. Who knows? And Fury is already really bad at Consulate Labs. They permaban those maps. So if Fortress turns out to be a map that Furious sucks at, APAC teams, hey, Aussies could be farming this group, getting some points. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to jump in for just a second here because I'm so glad you said that. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but I don't actually have Enterprise going home in this group. So I also have Enterprise surviving the group stages here. And I mean, this is a tricky one for me, right? Like I think all these groups have there's like a different reason as to why it's hard to rate the groups. Like go back to group number 1. You've got an unbelievable team in M80 who should, like I said, they should walk the rest of these 4 teams like dogs. But then what happens after that, right? Group B, you've got 2 great teams, and then you've got a wild card and wild card. Furia, though, also could just not show up. Who knows with all the stuff going on behind the scenes. Group C, you've got 3 teams that if they're on their A game, all 3 of those teams could literally be top 4 teams at the end of this event. But that's if they meet their potential, which is not always a given. Here in Group D, you kind of got the other guys, right? Like to me, Group D is like a group of they're a bunch of B+ teams that have an A to A+ ceiling, but also could very comfortably look like a C+ team. Like Enterprise, to everything Mint said, I'm glad you said it. Enterprise is nowhere near as bad of a team as people think they are. I think a lot of people will just be like, A, it's APAC, and B, like Australian teams, like whatever, like other than Fnatic, like Australian teams have struggled. Like obviously you had Bliss, you had Chiefs, like you had Corvidae way back, you had Mind Freak way back, but like for the most part, Australian teams don't really perform all that well. Fluxo W7M, obviously that's the old W7M roster that won the Montreal Major. This is still a very good team on paper. But I don't know, there's just something about them. And I feel like I have this with a Brazilian team every single event where I always have this blind spot. For most of the events, it was MIBR, where it's just like there's a team that comes in and it's like, you're like, yeah, they're fine, but like I don't really rate them very high. And then they go on great runs. This was the same that we had Rafa Company Academy or whatever the hell it was called at Boston SI that just like was so confusing as to how good they were. Then you've got OXG and Space Station. When it comes to international events, I am typically an NA hater. I know that does not do me well amongst our watchers that like North America, but I have seen Oxygen a lot over the last year. And I don't have a lot of confidence in this team. As for Space Station, I have a lot of confidence in Space Station, but as everybody smarter than me's already said, they typically only do well against other NA teams. Now, the good news for Space Station is you've got OXG in this group. So you've got one NA team that you should be able to beat. But like you've got Team Secret and you've got Fluxo W7M. Do I think Space Station can beat both those teams? I think they can. Do I think they will? I have no fucking idea. And then you look at Team Secret, and that to me, like that's the high water mark of this group. But if you take a look, Team Secret starts off against OXG. If OXG wins that game, I don't think Team Secret wins the group. Then Team Secret immediately plays SSG, Enterprise, and then Fluxo W7M, and they're off the last day. Things do get gradually easier, but again, I find like all 5 of these teams, Team Secret is like a little bit above. Team Secret's probably like an A, maybe A minus. Every other one of these teams is like B plus, B plus, B plus, B, if I'm giving out grades here. So I don't know. I really struggled with this group. This was the one that took me the longest to kind of sort out where teams would fall. But Enterprise are a better team. They can frag well. They seem to be quite coordinated, and they've got a couple teams that I just don't think fare the best internationally. I think there's a surprise potentially brewing here in Group D.
If there's any group it happens, it's this one. What do you think of that, Tree?
I mean, you guys were hyping up Enterprise so much. I had them just getting eliminated, but y'all been hyping them up, bro. Now I don't know. Now I'm just sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, maybe they do it. Maybe they don't. But I don't know. It's just I agree with INTERRO. I see Team Secret as just like a little bit of a step above. Like if they're all Bs, then Secret's like an A minus or an A.
Yeah.
I definitely see them like winning the group. It's going to be very interesting for they play against OXG first. I think OXG can kind of have like a wild play style sometimes, get extremely aggressive on defense, not afraid to bring like that triple shield we've seen out of them. They can get really wild on attack as well. I do think that's going to be a fun match to watch. I'm really excited for that to be the first matchup between those guys. But yeah, I think that'll kind of set the tone for how OXG is going to do in the group as well. If like they perform really well against Secret, like maybe they don't get 3rd or 4th, maybe they get like 2nd. And if they perform really, really poorly, like I don't know. This group could go any way. I mean, it really is the group of death, isn't it? The only one I'm really for sure on is Team Secret. I do really think they're going to get first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Dream. And
On form, Team Secret wins the whole tournament. No Kirk.
Yeah.
You think Secret wins the whole event if they're on form? Over M80, over Falcons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over
Well,
FaZe.
They don't have the problems that Fett was talking about with like maybe there's some issues brewing. Oh yeah.
which are like very huge and real problems. Like they let's not act like this is like, oh, if they get rid of it's like saying if Falcons get rid of their mental problems. It's like the same thing. Like these are very huge and real
True.
problems. And there's a reason why like during
Secret?
that. Yeah.
Did I
You
miss
see UNC Savage fucking screaming at his team when every round they lost at Munich. He's fucking yelling at them. He's yelling at them, bro.
Maybe
like,
that's how they communicate.
Screaming at them. Yeah, like he's licky facking them. He's OG. He's licky fact 2.0. But like that being said, like that. Why do you think during the M80 documentary, like all Fabi talked about is like if we're playing our game where you guys are calm and laughing and having fun, and like shit's fun as bricks or whatever the fuck he's calling it, like. You know, like that's the difference maker. It's these are huge issues. Like these are huge like barriers.
Yeah. I do want to say too with like with the auction thing because Parker touched on it, and I'm rooting for the Aussies. Hope they make it out, but also NA Copium as well. The only one thing I want to say about auction is like I remember a time right before the SI 2025 SI with Boston. Great event, Dream, right? That was a great event.
Oh, fantastic event.
Great event, and there was a a great team name on one in there. But Oxygen, they came, I believe, through the LCQ as well.
They did, yeah.
And I remember us scrimming them, and like they were dog shit. They were really, really bad. They were awful. They were a laughing stock. And they got Kizzy as a coach. They brought in, Brazilian. I hope I'm right this time.
Yes.
brought in Kizzy, and I think Kizzy's fantastic. I haven't seen any of his work, but I just know when they have Kizzy, the plus Kizzy stuff seems to go well for that roster. And when they got Kizzy and whatever happened during LCQ, we scrimmed them a ton going into that event. They got so good, and then all the way up until they finished top 8. So it's like I don't want to. Maybe they're just a team that could struggle regionally, but again, they got Kizzy. Maybe that international strategy and things like that. Some of those players start, powering up. Their playstyle could be really good too. Their playstyle kind of reminds me of like a FaZe clan with 4 mailboxes, and then you got Force just running around and hopefully not trolling rounds and minimizing mistakes. But yeah,
Interesting that you say that.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that you say that because it's like FaZe clan, except like all 5 of them turn into maniacs like randomly based off the push
Randomly?
they do.
You're
Yeah,
right.
like they have hella it's like FaZe with cheese. Like if FaZe clan tried to
With
cheese a lot.
cheese.
Yeah,
That's a great point. No, that's a great, because I do think I'm guessing with Kizzy with their strategist, I do think they have a very good like opening of rounds. Like they're very fast.
yeah.
Right, with the cheese, they're not afraid. Like they're doing stuff that, in my opinion, Dark Zero should have been doing the whole time. Like, why are we not running double shields with spirits on the team?
Yeah.
I don't. What are we doing? Why is he Blackbeard by himself? No one
Not this
following
rabbit
him.
hole, Kyle.
Sorry, DZ. It pisses me off. But yeah, no, I'm a fan of the Oxygen strategy. Where I think their problem is not groups. I think it's deeper into a tournament. I noticed they're a team that doesn't change anything. And I noticed that during the NAL as well. I feel like they don't really change too much. Their labs roam, they're still kind of running like a same 2-1-2 labs roam, or sometimes even like they're just aggressive. They get abused on the kitchen side, which is still something we abused during SI 2025. But yeah, I would just like to see them kind of get a little bit better with that. But overall, I got some copium for Oxygen in Group D. I think SSG. I'm worried. I'm worried.
See, me personally, SSG. They impressed me during the NAL finals. I think at least coming off that little mini tournament, whatever you want to call it, I think they were looking in really good form, and they kind of started figuring things out a little bit more. So I have high hopes for them coming into this group. I know they're not going to be playing NA teams, which obviously they dog on.
Oxygen.
But I'm really hoping they, well, besides Oxygen, yeah. But I'm really hoping they fix their problems and kind of lock in this group. I do really have high hopes for them.
Final words on Group D before we move to our predictions.
Is Paul Lou in the
Perfect.
GOAT status? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I don't think he is. All right. So, producer David, if you could queue up our predictions for our next topic, and if you are watching this, as of this exact minute, you have 3 days and 7 hours to get your predictions in on the Ubisoft Rainbow Six Siege Predictions SI 2026 page. Do not do what Mint and I did, which is Google SI 2026 predictions. It will, for some illogical reason, take you to SI last year, and it will say that predictions are closed. So don't do that. We will include a link in this video. The goal is for this video to be out before predictions close in just over 3 days. We will be at the mercy of scheduling. But again, we don't have any ad reads, so it's not the end of the world. We're not beholden to a specific time frame. Once we've got everything squared away with the editing and the thumbnail and all that, this can go live. And I think even if it goes live on like a Saturday morning, like that's okay with me. I just want to get this out. I want people to be able to watch it before SI rolls around. So go make your predictions. My predictions now should be on the screen. For Group A, I had M80 winning the group. No real surprise there. I struggled with who goes second, but I ultimately gave the nod to Nip. I think there's a very credible argument you could give for Team Heretics. I think they are on the outside looking in, but I went with Nip because I bet against them before. I know it was foolish. I'm going to try to fix my ways. My eliminated team is FearX. As you might see, there is a bit of a pattern here with APAC teams. Going over to Group B, I think Team Falcons and Furia are going to be first and second, respectively. Once again, I'm just a chimpanzee swinging from the trees. I just chose 2 teams that have a long history of success. I think if you want to bet against them, that's totally fine. But I think if all things go the way they should, these should be the two teams that make it on the top of the group. I think Daystar is unfortunately going to get eliminated. But I also think there's room for Elevate to go home too. I don't think it's a given that Daystar will go. For people who are not very familiar with Daystar, by the way, they used to be known as Dire Wolves. They've been to LAN before. They're not a bad team. They're just, I don't think, as good as the other four that are in here. Group C is where things maybe get a little spicy. I said FaZe Clan first. I don't think that's spicy, but I do have Shopify Rebellion being the second place team. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's my proximity to Troy. Maybe it's my friendship to Troy, but the fact remains that at some point, Shopify Rebellion have to be like a top team, right? Like at some point, you know, fingers crossed that it's them. If not, G2 was really close second. I think coin flip it goes between either of them. I think Black Dragons go home. I just think, as Mint said, you know, they limped through the LCQ. They never looked particularly strong. They played a lot of bad teams that they should have pulverized, and they didn't. Like, I don't know. I think Black Dragons goes home here. And then in Group D, this is where things get a little maybe eye-raising the most. I have Team Secret in first. Again, seem to be a consensus choice here. After all of the improvements that they've made in the NA League, I think Space Station is going to finish second. I know that I'm betting a lot on this, and I have OXG being the team to go home in the group. So I'm sorry to Dream. I'm sorry to Mint. I know, Fett, you don't really have any connection or care for OXG here, but I think OXG is going to be the team to go home. I think Enterprise lives to see another day. I don't think they will have that much deeper of a run, but I think Enterprise escapes Group D without going home. I don't know. Again, maybe it's just my proximity to OXG. Maybe I've seen how much they choke and fall apart in big moments. I am more hopeful after watching the LCQs, but I still just, OXG needs to wow me. Or they don't, because they don't actually care about my opinion. But it's like, to me, I don't know if they have what it takes. And again, there's always an NA team that blows up and surprises us. So some NA team is not going to do well. Unfortunately, I just think OXG is probably most likely of all of them. And then I guess after we're done these wave of predictions, we can talk about who we think is going to win the event just very quickly. Those are my predictions. I don't know if you guys have anything to comment on. Fett is up next, but I don't know if there's anything you see about my board that you take umbrage with, anything you dislike, anything that you like very much. Am I an idiot? Don't answer that. Especially don't answer that in the comments.
I'll get to it when I get to it on mine. No,
SSG second place is ball knowledge, Parker.
Yeah.
Is that good ball knowledge or poor ball knowledge?
That's good ball knowledge.
We're gonna find out in a few days.
We're gonna find out.
Sure
Yeah.
are.
Yep. Don't let me down, please.
Gotta hit my parlay for all the non-gambling I do. So
Yeah.
Is it mine on the screen right now, David?
let's queue up Fett's.
Okay. I'm gonna act like it is because
Producer
I
David,
just scroll up to
user.
see mine, and then just to make sure I'm doing actually mine, so I don't forget.
Yours is easy. Yours is the one that has the edit your predictions button. In it.
True.
You're the one that got Daystar first.
Yeah, I got Daystar first. So listen, I got something to say. I know there's APAC fans that are gonna be on my ass about putting APAC teams last, and I know like I've been very neglectful of your region, but dude, there was like multiple predictions where I tried a 360 no scope. Oh, this is the team that's going home, and I always have the exact same win rate as Varsity Gaming, who just goes, yeah, you just always want to put the APAC team last. They always do the worst. We always have the same win rate. So I give up. I give up on hot takes, all right? APAC team's last. That's it. That's it. So yeah, I didn't do what Kyle did this time. I didn't do, like, I usually do a map pool analysis and all that bullshit. I gave up. I'm just doing vibes this time. MAD number one because I'm biased and they did well during Munich. I would predict them lower. Because it based off pre-Munich because they always have slow starts, but they showed me in Munich they can go flawless in the first phase, so whatever. Munich, MAD first place, NIP second, head and shoulders above the rest of the group. Group B, I think Falcons has better early starts than Furia. Furia always a troll a game, and I think Falcons are also the overall stronger team. Furia in second place, obviously, because I think they're head and shoulders above the rest of their group, and Elevate last over the other APAC team in that group, even though I think Elevate are better because I'm hate watching, and I want to see that team go home. G2 over FaZe because, like I said at the beginning, I think they have better early tournament potential. I think FaZe have more consistent, or I think FaZe are informed to have a deeper run, but G2 are informed to go like crazier in groups as they have the last 2 years in SI, as well as FaZe Clan having an obsession with. They don't have like 2 permanent bans anymore. They can play Chalet now, but I also don't know like what they will ban instead maybe. And now that Fortress is in or other maps are in or whatever. But I know they love just like playing a map they fucking suck dick at for no reason in group stage. Every single event, they will always, like back when they permanent banned Border and Chalet, they would always just pull one out at the beginning of the tournament, get smoked on it, never play it again. Every single time without fail. So I think they troll a game. G2 do better beginning, and then D plus Kia eliminated because once again I hate watching. Don't import Brazilian teams into APAC, you people. Stop. So yeah, hate watch. Group D, Secret, I think number 1. I just think they're the best group. I actually have W7M over SSG purely based off that matchup. I think W7M have owned SSG at the past couple international events. So like if they go like the same amount of performance in either group and then they play each other, I think W7M beat them because they've historically owned them. I think that's a pure vibes. I didn't check the record. I'm gonna be real with you. But yeah, I think W7M just for that reason, and then I have Enterprise last because APAC safe pick. That's fine.
Nice.
I like the Flexo pick, and I mean I'm glad that we are seeing some variation here. I mean I think Group A is going to look pretty similar, and I mean obviously the top of Group B should as well. But beyond that, like I think there's really credible arguments for all of this. And I mean the other thing too is like let's be frank, we're used to APAC being APAC. APAC is half not APAC. APAC is half Brazil. So it's like you've got 2 Brazilian teams that you never know what they can do. Like, you know, just because Elevate and D plus Kia or you know, come from APAC doesn't mean they're going to meet the same fate as if that was like, you know, a mixed Southeast Asian team and a Korean team like before. So I don't think it's always as easy as just saying like APAC is going home, because even though, you know, it's like Messi coming over to like Miami. Yeah, the Brazilian players on Elevate and D plus Kia are on the backside of their careers. They're not what they used to be. We know that. But I still think they can give some of these teams a run for their money. And I don't think it's as clear cut as just, you know, oh, well, Elevate's gone. Oh, well, you know, whatever's gone. So
You're absolutely
I just
right,
want them
by
to
the way,
lose.
Fett. W7M smoked SSG to 7-1 last time they played.
Yeah, that was last time. No,
Nice.
this is this time. Okay.
Ooh, this time.
Hey, here's a question for you, Fett.
Yeah.
If one of your eliminated teams randomly made a run to top 8, who would it be out of those? They just popped off.
Hold on. I'm scrolling
Out of your
back
APAC teams.
scrolling all the way back up. I guess Enterprise.
Really?
Enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't like. I don't like Elevate or D plus. And like, in all realness, they are a 11th and 12th place Brazilian team. That's all they are.
There
Like
you go.
if Brazil had an 11th or 12th place team, that's what they would be. It's as simple as that for me. Like they have imported teams in NA, got fucking smoked by even like the worst NA teams, right? Like and even like for qualification to Munich, they got smoked out by APAC teams. Like these teams that continuously should have very easy runs, supposedly go to a different region, have an identity crisis, try to play like Brazil, but then all of Brazil has been playing against Brazil, so like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would have said Fear X maybe, just because. What if they
yeah,
crazy?
true.
Just like Reload, they're crazy.
What if they're crazy?
What if they're crazy? Anyway, we got Dream up next.
All right, I'm up next. Okay. I have M80 and NIP as first and second place. I think those are just the safest picks out of that group. We could have a dark horse in Team Heretics potentially, but I think NIP and M80 over them like is the most likely thing to happen. And then just FearX going home. I don't think they've shown anything all year that they like are improving or like getting a lot better compared to what they've shown at Reload. It just doesn't look like the same team. I definitely think they just go home. I have Team Falcons getting the first place in Group B, and then maybe a little bit more of a hotter take. I got Wildcard second. I do think they're international land beasts. I think they're going to handle business, in this group. And obviously Furia normally has a little bit of a slower start, so I kind of have them edging out Furia a little bit. Maybe
Edging.
that's
Sorry.
Come on, man.
jeez, this guy. TikTok brain rot. All good. And then I have Daystar going home. Then for Group C, I have FaZe Clan and then G2. Always got to believe in the FaZe boys. They're absolute beasts. And then G2 has Stompin', so I don't see them not getting second. And then D+ going home. For
Why
Group
not?
D, yeah, maybe a little bit. For Group D, I do think Team Secret is just like a little bit above, like I said earlier, just a tiny little step above. They should get first place. Then I'm on that SSG Copium train. I do think, after that NAL finals, they were looking nice. I high hopes for them, really high hopes. I really want them to do well. And then
Yeah,
I have
finals.
Enterprise going home. Jeez.
Beating NA teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a special request for when Mint goes.
Oh God.
Actually, wait, no, this is impossible. Now that I think about it, never mind. I was gonna say
What?
give us projected a couple projected BO3s for every group, and I want the DBNO, not the 6-on-6, the DBNO super fan, the resident super fan in chat to track how many he gets right. Because that'd be
Look,
sick, bro.
yeah.
I think it's super cool that you still project shit. I'm so fucking lazy now. When they reformatted Wikipedia, because I used to have a copy paste Wikipedia spreadsheet, and when they reformatted it so that there's 3 bands, I just gave up. I'm not a coach anymore, bro. I'm done. I'm done, bro.
That's
It's over.
basically what it is. It's copy paste Wikipedia. Anyone could do it in like an hour or two. I'm more so going to predict the band phases when they are matched up, and I'm gonna me and Dream, we're watching the games, and I'll be like, well, we're probably gonna go here. We'll see how many I'm right, but we also are we don't really know what their band phase. Their band phase is going off of their scrims and other stuff. It's just match data, right? And it's we don't know. Yeah, Dream, you're huffing that SSG copium, but I love it. You know why I love it? Because NA is better than EU, and we are going to prove again at Six Invitational. Am I right?
Damn straight.
EU frauds.
Yes.
EU frauds.
Yes. EU frauds, bro.
It goes Brazil, NA, and then EU.
No.
Okay, well,
it
that's
goes China, NA, Brazil,
right.
EU, APAC.
Has China done something yet? No? Oh, I don't think that works.
No, just you wait, buddy. Just you wait for Moonlight SI 2027, bro. That guy.
They were so close.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready for me to round out the pack here?
Yeah.
Round out the pack. All right. Touch on Group A, of course. Hot and cold. We'll talk about it next podcast. Is he the GOAT of Siege? After the SI win that he's about to have. SI plus 2 majors. Is he the GOAT? We're about to tune in after SI, because I got M80 first place in Group A. That's going to be an easy one. Yeah, they can start out slow, but I still think they're going to finish first place. Now, I do have NIP in second place, as you see by the graphic from producer David, and make sure you guys give producer David lots of love in the comments and get that Lamborghini, of course. But, I do have him finishing second, but I do want to highlight, we haven't talked much about Weibo Gaming, real quick. So just for Weibo fans, I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence as our stat guy for a second here, to look back at their recent results of how dominant Weibo is as an APAC team. If we go back to the beginning of Stage 1, first place. Stage 2, first place. Regional finals, first place. They are dominating APAC, right? And they're playing against a ton of these other teams that are coming in as APAC that we're predicting to go home pretty early, but they are still dominating them, right? So begs the question, I really would love to wonder where, if you put Weibo and NA, where they finish, right? Are they competing for a top 6 team? Do they make our playoffs? We've seen them beat DZ. We've seen them beat or get really close, I think. I don't know if they beat SR. I can't remember off the top of my head. But we've seen them very competitive in those kinds of games. Anyway, Munich, where they're also competitive. And the one match that I want to highlight in Munich for Weibo. Oh, they did beat Shopify 7-4.
Yes. I was going to say they beat them in Munich,
But the one game before that I wanted to highlight is they played NIP, and they smoked those frauds 7-1. 7-1.
7-1.
7-1. So, you know, I'm gonna regret. I'm gonna retract all this because I'm picking NIP to get second. To get second. But I do think Weibo deserves some respect. I think. I think they're either get third or second in this group because again, I believe so highly in M80. But yeah, we didn't really talk a lot about Weibo.
You
And I do think
crying?
No, it's just
They-
all of Mint's points are like, do I have this team is so fucking strong. Now, do I
Hey.
have them eliminated? Yeah, but this tournament gets fucking close. Now, do I have them going second? Yeah, but like,
because we're going off vibes here, and
We're
my
going
vibes
off
with the
vibes.
NIP boys are they playing in a better region, Brazil than APAC? Yes.
Yeah,
that's why,
yeah.
right. I'm going off of like because I agree with Fett too. I would love to do some hot takes, but at the end of the day, people are gonna look at your and mine video and be like, they're gonna see how good we are at our jobs and if we're frauds and like I gotta be safe. As much as I want to pick some of these hot takes, just pick APAC going home. I gotta be safe. So I'm with you on that one as well. Fear X getting eliminated. APAC gone. Okay. Group B, Falcons. It's their group to lose. Wild card. I have them getting second place. I know it could also go to Furia, depending, but I do think Furia. I looked at their ban phase as well, and again, Furia. The question mark for me is their map pool because Sky was pretty decent in there, and Labs and Consulate they don't play. You're talking a dynasty team, a contending team that does not play Labs Consulate. That is a perma ban. And of course, they're a good enough team with arguably the GOAT coach and Igor that they could pull one of these maps out during like playoffs or something. But they don't play them, and every time they have, it's not been that good. Where's Fortress? If Fortress is not playable, or if Fortress gets exposed in groups early and teams start targeting it, they're gonna have a rough time at this event. So that's my question mark for Furia. So I have them getting third place. I think Wildcard, my hot take is Wildcard is going to be one of the best teams at Fortress. That's my random weird hot take. I think they're going to beat Furia, and it's going to be because of Fortress. That's my early hot take prediction. We're going to see Fortress there. So I have them getting second place, and then I have Daystar getting eliminated. I know you're hate watching Elevate, but I'm just trying to think. Yes, Elevate is technically a Brazilian team, and they're technically not even Pro League, but I still think that's better than this APAC region where Daystar performs or plays in. They also do have a good history of head-to-head, and it's very back and forth. It is very even. And the last, it literally is back and forth, actually. It's Elevate wins, then Daystar wins, then Elevate wins, and Daystar wins. And guess what? The last one who won was Daystar, so I'm picking Elevate. It's a back and forth. And I do think Elevate would have improved in those 2 months as well. Group C, Fett, you convinced me, and it's too late. I locked it in. FaZe first, G2 second, and god dang it, I missed it. I missed it.
It could go either way, honestly. Yeah.
It could go either way, but I missed it. FaZe finished second place always. G2 finished first always. G2 are group farmers. I missed it, but I'm gonna hope because FaZe, I do think they're a little slept on. When we start talking about favorites of the event, FaZe literally won the last event. And they got second, and they should have won 2024. That was a heartbreaking and probably one of the best SIs I've ever seen. And then there's also the cyber factor of they're a team that doesn't really look like they're doing that much all year. When I watch them, I'm like, FaZe Clan, they barely won a close game again. But during these events, Cyber, he's just absolutely different. It was a big reason they beat M80 actually during the last major during Munich, and Cyber popped off on Chalet with like over a 14 bomb or whatever. Anyway, he always pops.
Does he have the number one most kills at SI right now? I think so, right?
I thought
That guy?
Nisk did.
Ooh.
Okay, keep going. I'm so sorry, man. I was trying to
Okay,
add
no,
to
you're
your
good.
point,
No,
but I didn't know.
that's great. That's great. D plus getting eliminated. I'll just move quick. D plus getting eliminated. And who the heck was in that group? Who was the other hot take that we were talking about? Black Dragons. The only reason I have Black Dragons over D plus is Black Dragons. There's a difference. Black Dragons are still players playing in Brazilian Pro League, even though yes, they barely made it through the LCQ, but that means they're like what, the 5th best team technically. D plus, they're players that can't get jobs to play in Brazil, so they have to go to APAC to play. So that's why I have D plus getting eliminated over Black Dragons. And then there is Secret. Group D, that's an easy win for Secret. I do think they're contenders for the entire tournament. W7M, very consistent team as well. They are going to get theirs just like Palu does. And Enterprise, I'm sorry, Aussies. I'm sorry. I could say you could beat Oxygen, but I'm going to have you playing it safe. Had to go and pick all APAC teams so I can get all of them correct. That's it. That's it.
That's
Cool
it.
beans.
Well, no, that's not it.
That's
That's just your those are just predictions here. I like how we all got Group A exactly the same. We all just decided that Group A would be uniform. And then obviously it breaks down little by little moving forward. I do think it's good that we're not all on the same page about this kind of stuff. You know, nobody really wants a lackluster and predictable event. And if we all come in and we're like, all right, these are the top 8 teams, and then that's exactly what happens, it's kind of boring. You know, like I think unpredictability is fun. It's our job as, you know, casters to sell that story as being good. I know that there are people and I'm actually curious what the breakdown would be, but there are people who will look at teams like Project Zero, now Team Heretics, making it in via LCQs and be like, oh, this sucks, like some shit team from like T2, like why couldn't it be VP? I think that's a valid way of looking at it. But then I think if people keep saying that, I think in a way it kind of means us as casters are failing at our jobs. What we should be doing is we should be taking a team like Heretics and we should be elevating them to a point where it's like, this is an unbelievable dream run for a team that has a lot of potential. And we need to give them the respect that they deserve rather than like, oh, 5 guys beat a bunch of better teams. They don't deserve to be here, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I see conversations that happen quite a lot in our esport now that relegations are back, and people are saying like some of their favorite moments in the history of this esport is a team that nobody's ever heard of, a team like Empire, a team like Forza, a team like, or Fours, or however you officially pronounce their name. Like you look at these teams that just come out of nowhere and then go on these heroic runs, and you think to yourself like, wow, like this is awesome. Like this is crazy. This is such a story. And I think when we as casters see this, we need to sell it better. And I'm holding myself accountable too, because I also fall of the mindset where it's like if some team just gets assembled out of nowhere and then makes it, and then they get blown up, I get a little resentful, like as a fan. And I'm like, man, like I kind of wish a better, more established, like I kind of like imagine like Heretics goes and they lose every single game and they go home. Would you not realistically be like, I know that they lost, but VP probably would have done better than that? And it makes for a weaker event. I think we need to sell it better. And I think that when you look at all of our predictions, I think it's good that we don't all agree, because it means that there are teams that are competitive enough that anything could happen in most of these groups, except for obviously Group A. And I think that's great. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good from a viewership perspective. If everything goes according to plan, what's even the point of watching? Just, you know, just refresh the Rainbow Six Esports tab, and that's all you need to do. So,
yeah, and groups have, to your point, groups have never been very predictable. Like you look back at last SI, CAG, many predicted in Group B to get grouped, and Secret got grouped, and CAG made it out. And Group C, Raza Company getting second, and PSG Town with Fabian on it getting grouped. Like it's, I'm sure we're not all going to be correct either. You know, there's always upsets and always weird stuff. So that's the fun of Siege. And it's all best of 3s.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on our predictions before I know you wanted to talk about Cyber a little bit. Fett, you were correct.
Yeah. So I don't know if David's able to get a screenshot of that in time, but I'll just yap while we're at it. Cyber currently, because of that last win, overtook Nesk and now has the most Six Invitational kills of all time at 1,182. And what's a crazier stat to me is that he also has the most opening kills across all events. I think that's what that is, which is 500, which is crazy. So, I mean, this guy's
Live
disgusting.
events, yeah. So
yeah,
it's SI's majors, Pro League finals, EWC, and Reload all lumped together.
Yeah.
So no minors, but everything beyond.
Wife and kids fucking breaking all the stereotypes of you're old, you should go play support. No, bro, he's fucking running in like a maniac and like breaking your team's necks. Jesus, like this guy's disgusting, man. I'm with you, like Mint. Like I feel like that team and even Cyber are like low key sleeper the whole year, and then they pull up the SI and that guy just plays fucking different, bro. But yeah, that's fucking nuts.
Our commenters really loved the spotlight that we decided to shine on Cyber in the most recent episode, and I think there is a very good argument for him replacing Nesca as, you know, the most notable Brazilian player. I just think the biggest issue is that, like, Nesk, I don't want to say Cyber doesn't have a personality, but like Cyber has never really made a big splash outside of Brazil from like a content perspective, and I fear that that hurts his position amongst like the English language speaking audience, because like so much stuff happens in Brazil that we just don't hear about. And I mean, like, even like still to this day, like Twitter Translate is really bad at translating like Brazilian Portuguese. So I don't know. I mean, the more I've thought about it, the more I'm just like, statistically speaking, Cyber has been the better player recently, but again, it's longevity for Nesk. We don't need to rehash this. Okay, now that we're finished talking about predictions, let's just do an org roundup. And unfortunately, Dream, you came on the show at a very interesting time. I know obviously you probably have some stuff that you can't talk about just because it's likely covered under contracts or NDAs, etc. But Cloud9 originally posted a couple days ago that they had released the team. But then they published an update that should be on your screen now that reads, if you don't have a visual component, I'll read it for you. C9 Rainbow Six update. We want to apologize for our previous post. It was premature and didn't reflect the ongoing conversations with our Rainbow Six roster. We've offered the team a new agreement with a 100% skin revenue share and have encouraged them to explore their options while they consider the path forward. We value this group and want to ensure they have every opportunity to make the best decision for their careers. Dream, as a player who, as far as I'm aware, is still on Cloud9, what the absolute hell does that mean?
I mean, as of this moment, I'm not on Cloud9 anymore. Our old contract was like null and void, like they canceled it out, and they said if you want to be on on Cloud9 for the next stage of Pro League, well, here's your new contract. And like it has I tweeted it out, so I'll say it here. The salary is much less, and then obviously because the salary is much less, they are offering us 100% of the skin share revenue. But to go into detail on
that sounds good.
Yeah, but it's nothing like it. You can't track how much money it's going to make. And obviously, if they're offering us less salary, it's because most likely they didn't make enough money through the skin tier program to keep that old salary the same. You know what I mean? And like, we have no way of knowing any of those numbers or anything like that. Or at least I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. And like it comes so much later that it's like you're still like, it's not like it's it's a cash flow. It's like the teams get paid like that lump sum after like months after like that skin share or whatever finishes, and then they like that goes to the players even much later than that, and then like so during the time that you're playing and practicing a team, you're still surviving off whatever salary they're giving you. It's not a cash flow.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to play in Pro League, like that's one way of looking at it. Yes, you would still be allowed to play in Pro League. I just don't think it's like, how are you going to be a super competitive team or like just playing at your best when you're against these other teams who have all these better resources and just much more time they can invest into the game, right? Because like, let's just say, for argument's sake, you're playing under Cloud9, like you're not getting enough to actually like live on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just you have to do something else. You have to work somewhere else, depending where you live, whatever. And it's going to be hard for whoever decides to stay, for sure.
Is there any more you feel comfortable talking about? We don't need to dive into it too much. If we have not eclipsed the 3-hour mark, we are very, very close. But I understand that when this kind of stuff happens, and we've had players on when this has happened in the past, years ago, that there's certain stuff you're not allowed to talk about. I can say from my vantage point, and this, I don't know if you will agree, and you don't need to agree. I don't want you to get in any trouble or anything. I don't have any bone to pick with Cloud9 as an org. I've never really interacted with them that much. They sent me a care package way back in the day of some branded clothing when they had like a partnership, I think with Puma or something. I can't remember what it was. And it's like they seemed like they were nice people, especially like I've known some of the employees who work for them.
Mhm.
But I feel like most of their time in Rainbow Six has revolved around them wanting to pick up the cheapest teams humanly possible. And, I remember when they had the original, like that reciprocity team that had like Goddess and Foxy and all of them on it.
Mhm.
And then Goddess was removed from the team and they basically didn't want to be in Siege anymore because they didn't feel it was worth it if they didn't have Goddess for representation. And then they immediately went over to APAC and they picked up the team that actually now, if memory serves correctly, is still that BNK Fear X team. And I heard that the salary that they were paying them was so fucking pathetically low that these guys were still like working at like McDonald's and stuff to make ends meet because they had to work around it. And it's like I've long argued this point. I, as an esports fan growing up, obviously I look at organizations like FaZe, like G2, like Cloud9, like some orgs that don't even exist any longer. And I'm like, wow, it would be so cool to have them in Siege. Like, these guys are historic. Like, I've heard their names in League. I've heard their names in Counter-Strike. Like, oh my God. But I don't fucking care if you're in our league if you're not going to treat our players and our scene right. And if your only goal here is to advertise for your org, you can get the fuck out. I have no interest in you being here. Like, if you're going to pay people like a couple $100 a month, that is nowhere near good enough. If you're going to be here and you're going to give them a terrible contract where they basically have these extraordinarily expensive buyouts and there's nothing they can do for multiple years, like, yeah, I mean, obviously there is some fault that lies on players that sign those contracts to begin with, but then we have to talk about the predatory nature of, an org coming in and basically saying this is your only shot. And if you don't sign this, you're not going to make any money. Like, people will feel like they have no choice to do it. I don't want teams like Dignitas, like Cloud9, like, fuck, who else? Who's not even in the scene right now? Like, if 100 teams were to come in.
LG.
Like, yeah, like, I don't want these big orgs in the scene if they're just here to take our players and take our viewership and take our esport for granted. If you're going to come to Rainbow Six, I want you to invest in the players. I want you to invest in their success. I want you to give a damn about the game. I want you to be tweeting about the game. I want you to be sharing it on socials. I want you to be making content. And if you think that's not worth your time, then good. See you later. Like, I have no patience for these orgs that come in with legacies that, like, I remember sitting down with a player, and it was FaZe Clan. I'm not going to say which player it was, but I sat down with a player and he was like, growing up, I loved FaZe Clan. Like, I used to watch their Call of Duty stuff. He's like, the moment that FaZe Clan wanted to sign me, I was like, fuck yes, we have to do this. And then he's like, FaZe Clan has easily been an absolute nightmare to deal with in every capacity. And it's like, I'm not going to say which player it is. Like, I'm not going to say whether they're still playing or not. I'm not going to say what timeline this was. It was a while ago, so things might have changed. But at the time, they were like, I kind of feel like I got taken advantage of. I remember when Troy first signed with EG, when they got picked up by EG way back in the day, Troy openly said, like, I love them from Call of Duty. Like, I can't believe I'm playing for evil geniuses. And it's like they use that to give you shit deals so that you get suckered in and you let your guard down. And I think it's so sad. And it's like, they know that. It is often sinister. And I'm not saying EG, I'm not saying FaZe Clan, I'm saying like orgs will do this. So if Cloud9 is just here yet again to try and pick up a roster, pay them, peanuts, and then get a skin in the game, see you later. I'd like, obviously it sucks for the players. It sucks for you guys. It sucks that you're now kind of in limbo. But like, my blood pressure just starts rising when I hear that shit.
Yeah, it's definitely not good for the scene, right? Because if other orgs see, hey, this team's getting paid that and it's super low, and then you have like, how can you argue to like increase anyone else's salary or to like, but maybe that other org's thinking, oh, we're paying too much. If that's like what the league average is, you know what I mean? They pull everything else down. Like, it's just not a good look for the scene. And yeah, I mean, it sucks that it happened this way, but I will say that first tweet they put out, it was definitely just like a miscommunication. They didn't really talk to us about it. So like, I was in the middle of playing ranked. I think I was down like 0-3, and then my chat told me, hey, you got dropped. And I was like, what?
That's crazy.
I just
That
realized
is
we didn't say this, by the way, on the
Yeah.
podcast yet. So for it's not going to show up on the screen because they deleted the tweet now. But
Mhm.
Cloud9 tweeted out, "Thank you and farewell to everyone on the roster," and they tagged everyone on the roster. And on Dream Stream, you see him in the middle of a ranked game tab out and just be like, "Well, this is news to me." And all the other Cloud9 players were like, "Well, shit, this is the first time I'm hearing about this," you know? So I'll let you continue, Gidge. I just wanted to clarify. I don't think we talked about that yet, but yeah, they got farewelled. Like straight up, they got
Yeah.
farewelled. And then I believe who was it? Vivid, like at the end of it, was like, "Okay, that was a miscommunication. What they meant to say was thank us for the year they've played for us, and we still have the
Yes.
option to be on the team if we want to be." And it's like they deleted the tweet and then they made the second one, which is the one that was shown on screen earlier or showing right now
Yep.
if you still see it. Yeah.
So basically, when we had because it was within like 30 minutes to an hour, I think I was still streaming. I even just muted the stream. We got into a talk with our org, and they were saying, like this was just a thank you. Like we didn't mean for it to be like, oh, you guys can't come back to the team if you don't want. We did know our salaries were being changed and the terms of the contract were being changed, but we had just thought like after invite or something that whatever player like found an offer to a different team, they would just do a thank you to them, and then anybody that decided to stay or was like being done, they would do like thank you or like, hey, this is what we're gonna build with this moving forward, or we picked up these two new guys, whatever. But yeah, so it was just a massive miscommunication. And I will say on the side of Cloud9, like everyone I've talked to or personally dealt with, like they've been really nice about everything. They do seem like a really good org. I just think maybe like this has just been a rough year for Siege, and I do kind of hope like everybody, even though Cloud9 like maybe doesn't look the best from like the outside, I do hope like you still supporting whichever players decide to stay on the team, like just buying the Cloud9 skin. Like if they do retain like 100% of that, like that money does go to the players. So I do hope people buy that for sure.
That's the thing that often gets forgotten here. And I mean, I obviously get heated with this kind of thing, but like there are real players who are faced with a situation where it's like sign with Cloud9 and make very little money, or just play and make no money.
Yeah.
Right. Like you've got a shit situation either way. And it's really unfortunate. And I mean, it's unfortunate in regular sports too. You know, any type of like exploitation of like up and coming like talented players or stuff like that should just be like an immediate like no. You know, we talked about this on the last show or 2 shows ago about UB blacklisting casters that tried to undercut other talent. Like that's good. You know, like, you know, I'm very glad that Ubisoft or Blast or ESL or Faceit aren't engaging in those practices, because I mean, corporations they have no ethics. Their goal is to make money. That's it. And it's like, if you're a TO and like 4 people who are like aspiring amateur casters come to you and they're like, hey, I know that day rates are X amount of money. I'm going to work for, you know, like next to nothing. Hire me. I mean, corporations don't care about ethics. Why would they not just be like, yeah, sure. Okay, fine. Yeah. Like you're good enough. We'll save some money. Like that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. So, you know, like I had to give some props to, you know, Ubisoft for basically putting their foot down and being like, if you're trying to undercut other talent, you can get the fuck out. Don't bother coming to our esport. Like we don't want you here. And, you know, I saw somebody in the comments was like, I really hope that's not true, because then I won't be able to make fun of Ubisoft for it. And it's like, well, Ubisoft does do some things right sometimes, and you shouldn't just hate on them all the time. But yeah, I mean, it obviously it sucks. Like you see guys like LFO/Orgless, they had to play 2 stages without any representation, you know, because LG, another fucking terrible organization when it comes to our game, that I don't think LG's ever had like a positive period of time in Rainbow Six Siege. Like they came and they just dropped them on a moment's notice right before this season was supposed to begin. It sucked. So it's like for you and the C9 players or former C9 players, I hope you guys are able to land on your feet. And, whether you go back with Cloud9 or whether you retire or you in particular, Dream, would be very successful outside of playing. But it's like, I like casting you, so I hope that you're not done. I think it sucks that people are put in this situation. It's a reality of the business, but it shouldn't be. So my hope is just that the people are okay. I don't really care about Cloud9 or anything like that. So
yeah, I have a shit ton of opinion on this, but for the sake of time, because we're running pretty long, I'm just not going to dive into it. I talked about it on stream, and I'm turning it into a YouTube video. But I think low key it is a little bit on the organizer to not invite back teams that have historically done this, because I think someone said this is like the fourth time, at least when they made the first mistake tweet, this is the fourth time C9 have dropped an entire roster in Siege. And I think like when you look back at like the Mirage situation, when you look back at shit like that, I think it's much better in our interest, because like you said, corporations are always profit driven, and esports is a 4,000% net negative thing. It's on the beneficiary of the organizer to invite orgs that want to invest more and stay long. And for orgs out there that are listening to this, per chance, if you want to win, if you don't want to win, it's whatever. I'm not talking to you. If you want to win, you need to invest. I experienced that firsthand myself.
100%.
I didn't win until I had a roster that was paid $3,000. That was it. Like, I just couldn't afford good players. That was it. That being said, I have a really interesting note for you, Parker. Is that this is my chat said this, by the way. The Saudi Arabian government requires that they check every single esports contract to make sure there's no foul play, and there's a minimum salaries met, the players are getting compensated, and you get in very, very big trouble if you don't do that. So if there's any like silver lining that actually might come out of like Chinese and Saudi esports, maybe it's that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like everything they do is wrong. I'm obviously critical of what I think needs to be criticized, but I'm also aware that there are aspects in which can be good. And even if not, there's that old saying, like, a broken clock is still right twice a day.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, not to put on my political hat here, but in China and Saudi Arabia, they're not really subject to the same market forces that a lot of other companies and stuff like that are subject to. So they can get away with that because, like, Saudi Arabia is not hurting for money, not yet, at least. They're still a very successful petro state. They're trying to diversify, but it's like they can afford to spend that money. And if it's like, even if it's not being done from like, say like, what's the word I'm looking for? If they're not doing it from like an altruistic angle, like the fact that you've now said this on a podcast is like a form of marketing for them, because now somebody's going to listen and be like, oh, that's awesome. Good for them. And it's like, they didn't have to pay you to say that. So Min has to go in less than 15 minutes. So we gotta speed through the last two topics. It's just a roundup of all of the org stuff that's happened. WYLDE, the team that has been in the EML for so long. And correct me if I'm wrong, were one of the two teams relegated? It was them and Wolves, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
I believe so. WYLDE, which stands for What You Love Doing Esports, by the way. Hands up if you knew it was an acronym.
I did not.
WYLDE is an acronym. It stands for What You Love Doing, or what we love.
Why you love doing?
It's What You Love Doing Esport or something like that. Basically put out a tweet the other day saying that today marks a heartbreaking moment for WYLDE as we announce our withdrawal from competitive Rainbow Six Siege after 5 years. Our passion for the game remains strong, and our commitment to supporting players and identifying talent is unwavering. We take pride in what we've achieved, especially in the past 20 months with our Academy's ascent to EML Tier 1, as well as our involvement in Gamers Without Borders, Gamers 8, GSE, and EUL. However, the commercial reality of sustaining a Tier 1 team, providing necessary support and the appropriate pay, is not possible under current conditions. We are actively working with our current roster to determine the best next steps. We will continue to invest in our Academy program and collaborate with Ubisoft and other stakeholders, including esports organizations, to build a better future. WYLDE loves Siege. We cherish the community and endeavor to find a viable path. Now, before people start going, all the sky is falling, it's worth noting that WYLDE as an org, I don't think ever really ingratiated themselves to the community, so I can't really see them being like particularly profitable or well loved within our esport. Additionally, I know that there have been some dust ups between WYLDE and things that have been said on the EU broadcast with them not liking negativity towards their brand. If that's the case, we're not going to sugarcoat it when your team does poorly. Sorry, that's not how these things work. But I will say WYLDE committed. They were around for a long time. They did spend money, and it's a shame to see them go. You know, I don't think any esport org is perfect. I don't know much about WYLDE. I really never interacted with the team. I certainly didn't interact with the org. But it's obviously not great when you see a team leave. But from what I've heard, you know, like there's lots of orgs in Europe that are always looking to pick up teams. We just had Heretics, which is actually going to be our final discussion point, just in case you missed it in the earlier discussions. Heretics, obviously the Spanish org, coming in and picking up Project Zero. So WYLDE is gone for the time being. It would not surprise me if they came back later on down the road, but for now, we say goodbye to WYLDE. And it's a bummer for another org to go, but orgs come, orgs go. That's how she goes, you know? You guys,
one thing
know anything about WYLDE?
I do. Well, maybe not the org as much, but I actually had a ton of fun watching them play in the EUL this year. I don't think they should have been relegated, but they didn't show up in the last 3 matches. When they should have won some big games, especially I think during Match Go and some other ones that they definitely should have won. But the one thing I do like is that they left when they realized they couldn't compensate their players enough. Now, easier for them because they're not in Pro League versus Cloud9, but it's another argument. You're a partnered team in a league, and you're just allowed to cut the salary by over half. I don't think should be a thing. So that's another argument. I don't know, but I feel like the players have to, especially if you want to win. Like if you're just here to collect money, I don't think you should be a partner team. Like if you're just here to collect skins and advertisement for your other teams, I don't think you should be a partner team. I think to be a partner team, you should look at like some other franchise systems in a sense of like you should be putting a lot into like the players and the player growth and things like that. Like actually care. But anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But no, I mean, and WYLDE also, they built their team, like they said, from the academy. Like, I actually thought they did a really cool job. If anyone remembers when they made that team, everything was streamed, right? They did the whole tryout process and 10-mans and everything was streamed, which I actually thought was really cool. I thought it was very engaging for the viewers, and they were able to see a lot of fans and a lot of upcoming players that people have not heard of. They were able to find. There's some promising players that are on on that team. Again, Evan, I think, is a really good IGL and knows his stuff. I could see him landing onto another team. Boomsy, I believe his name is. There's some good fraggers that were on that team as well. So I think they'll land on their feet. I think it was probably good for them to probably split and see what are their better offers that they were going to have anyways. But like you were saying, of course it sucks. But the sky is not always falling. Like you said, like we're going to lose some orgs and maybe some bad news. And it always happens right around now. But it's like once SI happens and then we get news for the new year, and then we're going to start to get hype about the game again. And that's when Steam numbers and everything are at the highest. And that's when we're like, might hear some news about some big orgs joining Siege that are like rumored to be around too. And Heretics too, which we're about to cover, are actually a pretty massive organization as well. So it's not always negative. But I'm a big cope for Siege. I love Siege.
Our Steam numbers have rebounded as well. We're averaging at this present time, there's over 60,000 people that are playing it. Our average for the last 30 days is almost 50K, which is up from 31 or 32,000. So it's starting to rebound, and it usually does around SI. They did a teaser earlier today. I don't know if any of you watching this have seen that Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid is coming to Siege. Is he the next operator? Is he just a skin? I don't think any of it was confirmed yet, so we will wait to see, but obviously that will be a big reveal during SI, no matter what, and always SI is the roadmap for the year ahead. Given the tumultuous launch that CGX had last spring, they got to stick the landing on this, and I think they know that. You know, I've spoken with a couple UB devs in private, and I think they all understand like the weight of the moment and how important it is that they nail it for the reveal at SI in a couple weeks. So fingers crossed, but I mean, numbers are already getting better, which is great. And, you know, promising signs. And I think the game's in a pretty good place. I think the buffs have been well received. I think it's a lot of fun, and, you know, just fix the mic bug and I'm pretty happy. So Last one. Just one final moment about WYLDE. I know obviously that they got into that. It was a bit rough, their launch with EU, and obviously not liking the way that EU had talked about some of their players and talked about their team. This is not unique. I have had orgs and I have had people from orgs DM me after matches asking why we are so negative or asking that we not say this about their team, etc. I think it's very reasonable that an org that is looking to defend its brand says this, but I think it's also important to know that integrity does not mean, yes, I will do what your corporation wants me to do. That's not how it works. So we have to find a happy balance, because you don't want to unjustifiably dump on a team, because then that reflects poorly on the esport, it reflects poorly on the team, it reflects poorly on the caster, and orgs have every right to be angry about that. Since that little dust up with some of the EU talent, I have heard that things have been great and that they've been an awesome org to work with. It is obviously a shame to see them go. Hopefully they will come back at some point, but if not, like I said, orgs come and go. And speaking of coming, last one is Team Heretics. We did talk about it a little bit earlier. Project Zero, the T2 team that first made a splash at the Spoit Contender Series here in Toronto. They did not make the finals, but Groovy is a former pro that a lot of people know. They've got other former pros in the team as well that have competed in the past. I believe Oscar's another one of them. I think Uper is another one. I can't exactly remember the full history. But either way, Team Heretics is a very large Spanish organization with games or teams in a wide variety of games. They have picked up Project Zero. So Project Zero now, I don't even think they're in EML yet. Like, I think they need to qualify, right? So if they make it through challengers, but Heretics has at least picked them up for SI, so that's great. A big org, and we welcome them with wide arms and hope for the best for the Project Zero folks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we don't know anything about them. The only thing I could be skeptical on, and I hope I'm wrong, but like when we were with Unwanted, and right before SI, there were a couple of even bigger orgs that would temporarily sign us for SI because it is such a big event. And it just didn't make sense to us because they could also hold you after SI. Maybe you get another offer. Maybe they're taking a good amount of prize money. And if you don't think you're going very far, it makes sense. Sure, they're going to pay you, and at least they're being paid. Because I would wish nobody go to SI and not be paid, because that sucks. To put all that time in. So hopefully they were with them for a little while and were able to get a little bit of compensation so they can, practice and give their best showing for SI. But yeah, hopefully it's not temporary, and hopefully we could, I don't know if it's just betting on them to also make it in Challenger League. And if they don't make it in Challenger League, then maybe they just leave them. Who knows? But they are a massive org. I mean, as you look on Twitter, over a million followers. So I also
realized they were that big.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think as English speakers, we often underrate the size of the Spanish scene, right? Spanish is one of the most widely spoken languages on the planet. Like, there is an entire continent that, with the exception of obviously one really big country, almost exclusively speaks Spanish. There's Spanish speakers in North America, in Europe, there's Spanish speakers all over. And I mean, like, you look at some of these humongous Spanish streamers that are like getting like literally millions of concurrents. It's insane. And we just don't hear about it because obviously we speak English. We don't speak Spanish. Twitch is big enough now where when something huge happened on Twitch 9 years ago, we were all watching it. Now something huge happens to like literally hundreds of thousands of viewers and you don't hear about it unless you're in that circle. So they're very, very big. And they are a huge addition to the scene, and I am hopeful that they treat the team well, they pay them well, and that they're a good org to play for. That's really it.
Yeah, I'm really happy they're in. I think like short term, like contracts are the way to go. I'm assuming it's a short-term contract. I think the esports orgs that want to sign like 2-year contracts, 4-year contracts, I think this is out of meta for our game. I think 6 months contracts, like short 3 months contracts, one event contracts are really the way to go. I'm really glad that an orgless team at SI got representation. Unwanted obviously didn't get representation. It was really sad to see. And there's many teams that do go and end up playing orgless. But, I'm really glad they do. Last time a team got picked up in SI, they stuck out. It was Parabellum. They picked up the LTO roster who qualified for SI and stuck with them for a whole year as they battled through Challenger League to make it into NA. And then they were in NA for a really long time until they got bought out by a parent company that just shit the bed with managing that company, which was really sad. But good. It's a good sign. It makes me happy. That's really it.
No, and that is a great way to sum up probably all of our thoughts and to finish out the episode. Thank you so much for watching. This was our pre-SI show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We've given you a bunch of call to actions. There's still people thanking producer David and also trying to get him his Lambo. We appreciate that immensely. The only thing I will ask, if you did make it this far, more feedback about what you think of the new rebrand of Down But Not Out, just so we can keep tweaking it and just kind of tightening the screws just a little bit. There won't be an episode for the next week or two because I will be in Paris. So when this comes out, you're going to have to just deal with SI. We'll resume shows when we get back. Hopefully you'll be able to manage the drought. There's some older episodes if you want to go watch them on the channel. On behalf of Mint, Fett, myself, Last Free Nation, producer David, you the viewer, and this time, most importantly, Dream, our wonderful guest joining us for this pre-SI Super Show. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next show.